This is Rogers TV.
Okay, good morning. It's 9 a.m. It's February 5th. This is a special meeting of the Owen Sound City Council. Councillor Dodd is on his way, and I understand that the clerks have heard from Councillor Farmer and he's not coming. So with that, we will call it to order. Are there any declarations of interest? Not seeing any. If any arise, you know what to do. Motion to move council into committee of the whole. Oh, you've got them.
Moved by myself, Deputy Mayor Gregg, seconded by Councillor Hamley, that City Council now move into Committee of the Whole to consider presentations, matters arising from correspondence, and matters postponed respecting the multi-year capital plan.
And all in favor? So that's carried. We're now in Committee of the Whole. At 4A, we have a presentation from the Director of Corporate Services with regard to multi-year budgeting.
Thank you, Your Worship. Before I pass it over to Brady to pick up where we left off at our last meeting, I just wanted to give a very quick sort of overview of where we're heading with multi-year budgeting. Some of the benefits of a multi-year budget include improved process for large projects that span multiple years. So consider phase design and construction. Historically, the city would undertake the design phase of a large construction project in order to be shovel ready, but without a firm commitment that funds would be available for construction. In the worst case scenario, these shovel-ready project designs would remain shelved, and by the time a project was ready to move forward, the design would no longer be suitable, requiring additional updates. With a longer-term budget horizon, we can be certain that design investments will be utilized when the shovels go into the ground. We have greater certainty around stability of tax levy and timing of capital projects. This limits the backlog and the spikes in capital funding requirements. Many of the significant tax increases that we are seeing at our neighbors and comparators in the province are due to short-sighted capital planning. I believe the greatest benefit of our multi-year capital plan is to stabilize funding requirements. Keep in mind this is an allocation of funding and not a cash flow budget. However, with some certainty around the annual investment into our capital program, staff and finance are able to meet cash flow needs without requiring additional funds with short notice. In the event that a tender does come in significantly more than the estimate, we can review the full multi-year budget to make adjustments based on priorities rather than requiring additional levy dollars in the current year. We have improved pricing when projects may be tendered well in advance of construction. When we were sort of doing an annual capital budget, it often wasn't getting approved until we approved the total budget in February or March, which means we're not able to start tendering projects for that year until after that approval date. With the multi-year capital plan, we can get started on drafting tender documents and getting those tenders out the door without waiting for that operating budget levy stamp of approval. And then finally, we can realize economies of scale when we can group like projects together. For example, throughout the budget, you'll see there's multiple, I would call them facility maintenance projects, particularly around roof replacements, windows and doors, garage doors, overhead doors. When we can group a series of those together, we can often get better pricing. And by having an idea over the full 5 years horizon, what like projects there are, it gives us a better sense of what types of projects we may group together in order to benefit from those economies of scale. So the purpose of today's meeting and recommendation report is to review and approve the changes in the multi-year capital plan. The capital levy has been included as part of the operating budget, and aggregate capital spending increases is tied to the dedicated 1% tax increase. The multi-year capital plan allocates this capital levy as well as other funding sources, including reserves, rates, grants, and donations to specific projects. The multi-year capital plan was presented comprehensively in July, and there was an approval report that came forward in September. Over the past 3 years, we have been moving towards a multi-year plan. Once the wrinkles are ironed out, staff will begin the process for moving to a multi-year operating budget as well. The Municipal Act authorizes a municipality to prepare and adopt a budget covering a period of 2 to 5 years. In this model, rather than approving an annual budget each year, Council approves the budget for the next 5 years, subject to annual readoption. The goal of the multi-year plan will balance certainty in order to realize the benefits of multi-year planning that I just discussed, with flexibility in order to ensure that Council is able to amend the plan to reflect changing priorities. The current process involves a comprehensive review in June or July, plus an update in December or January. Each review is intended to capture the full plan. However, given the timing of projects, the focus often remains on the year ahead. If there are projects in the multi-year plan that Council wants to review in greater detail, reconsider, or remove, these meetings are the opportunity to have that discussion, and it is not limited to the current year. We are looking at the full 5-year plan. As we formalize this policy, we will seek Council input to ensure that we include the balance of certainty in order to realize the benefits, with flexibility to ensure Council maintains control and oversight of the allocation of our limited funding dollars. And I'd also just point out that dollars are not our only limited resource in moving forward with these capital plans. Our staff resources are affected as well. So in the coming months, and before we do our next comprehensive capital review, we will be bringing an updated capital budget policy to sort of capture all of this and formalize it. And I have been working actually with my counterpart. His name is Bill Dakin, the treasurer of Strathroy, and they very recently moved to a multi-year budget for both operating and capital all at once. So certainly they're getting used to that concept as well, and I'm eager to work with him to sort of figure out what works, what doesn't, and what sort of requires a little bit of extra learning. So I have their documents here and some frequently asked questions as well, should Council have any.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship, to the Director. For the benefit of everyone, can you explain the expected capital increase to the budget this year and, 24 and 25 and years following?
Certainly. So we do have an existing capital budget policy, and one of the things that policy formalized, and it stemmed from the original presentation of our asset management plan back in 2013, that Council would incrementally add to our total capital funding a dedicated 1% every year. And the intention of this was to have a strategy to close that infrastructure funding gap. That gap is essentially our capital investment needs versus what we're actually allocating to capital every year. And over time, as we allocate this dedicated 1%, the goal is to close that gap. So what that works out to each year is around 32 our total levy's around 32 million, so 320,000 this year roughly is what that dedicated increase to capital is. That isn't just going, however, to our capital levy. We have to acknowledge the fact that that's not our only capital spending. When we make reserve transfers for future capital projects from our operating budget, that's also considered capital spending. When we make a debt payment, that's also considered capital spending. So that dedicated 1% covers any increases, not just the levy. So if we increase a reserve transfer, it comes out of that dedicated 1% and it limits the amount available for the annual capital levy.
Through you, Chair, 2 questions. In your discussion with your professional colleague around multi-year budgeting, will you be in the future bringing forward not just a capital plan, but a revenue generation and a revenue strategy plan around the gap reduction so that we can look at what we need and also the plan to help us financially achieve that? That's my first question.
Absolutely. So our multi-year capital plan that we're presenting today is fully funded through that 5 years. For a sort of longer-term horizon, I might refer to Brady and the work that he and Cheyenne are doing around our asset management plan, and that financing strategy is a legislated piece of the plan that we are required to bring forward to council, and that will cover the full sort of bigger picture. I believe that's in 2026. That next piece is required. So certainly that is coming forward to council.
One more question for the moment. We are doing a facilities assessment. We anticipate, correct me if I'm wrong, that the report will come back in June. So as we move forward and we're looking at this, there's some missed potential pieces that I think need to be brought back for us to have a comprehensive overview before we're able to really move forward with an approval of this plan. So as we move forward, it's almost a conditional based on additional information that would come forward. And that's my concern. I want to be able to see a comprehensive plan, including our facilities assessment, to be able to see as we move forward what we need to adjust if necessary. So will that be an understanding as we move forward?
I think that's sort of capturing that flexibility piece. So certainly as new information is learned, we need to be able to adjust accordingly. You're absolutely right. We're undertaking our facility condition assessment. The RFP is, I believe, just awarded. And so we should have those results in time for our next comprehensive capital update. Also around that same time is the next phase of our asset management plan, which includes all assets. So historically, we've been working with an asset management plan that's only focused on core infrastructure, which is roads, bridges, water, sewer, and storm. Once we have this next phase to include all other assets, spoiler alert, our infrastructure gap is going to grow substantially, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it even double. So at that point in time, we may have some other recommendations as to how we address that infrastructure gap, potentially increasing the levy that we put towards capital, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. And Strathroy in particular, I do like how their policy includes what are the criteria that must be met in order to reconsider the capital item. And they're fairly broad, but it ensures that you tie whatever that decision is to go back and revisit and change to some sort of external event. And certainly new information would be one of those things.
I would also ask you, an external event I would suggest would include an election. So the plan would maintain that flexibility from the outcome of an election, because it's ultimately the residents that will decide on where their elected officials may direct funds to different projects. Is that something that you've discussed with the Strathroy and considered in terms of the future, migrating to this new plan?
I don't think we've discuss the election specifically, but certainly that priorities change over time and ensuring that we're not committing a future council to decisions that are made here today, so that we maintain that flexibility. And if a new council has a new set of priorities, that will sort of address that, even through our matrix, our evaluation templates, will capture what those priorities are and could potentially shake up how that capital plan looks going forward.
So you need a motion first? No.
All right, good morning again. Before I move on to my presentation, or the continuation of the presentation from December, we added an additional memo to this council agenda to clarify one of the misstatements from my presentation and report back in December about the 5-year plan carrying a deficit position. It was something that continued to bother us even kind of leading into that presentation and after that. So 2 of us did a very comprehensive review of the Excel spreadsheet to find out where this error happened. And we found that it was contained in the spreadsheet around some of the funding. There was duplicate funding for where it was coming from, but also listing that it was funded. When I was making changes to the plan to balance it, I removed the funding from the funded part, but on a couple hidden cells, there were still some of that funding contained in the different funding sources. So once we remove that, we have the budget back down to the 0 that we had anticipated. The projects were, I believe, at the McQuay Tannery, the library, the Tom Thompson Art Gallery, and the police station to reduce that $212,000 back down to 0. And those projects are all listed on the summary sheet showing that they went from funded to unfunded projects. So the good news is that we're back down to that 0 where we want to be, and we'd actually want to be a little bit on the other side as we move forward, but this has it back balanced again.
Brian has asked for a motion to receive the memo. Brock's putting his hand up to move it. Any questions? Call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thanks, Brianna.
All right, so now we are into the picking up where we left off on December 18th. I'm not going to walk through the entire presentation again like we did back in December, because I think we walked through it, we talked about some of the projects, but I am just going to reiterate for those that are maybe listening today that weren't here on December 18th or haven't had a chance to watch the video. On the December 18th presentation, we went through our capital plan highlights. Once again, that's just a boilerplate template that we talk about what's been funded, what's not funded, how many projects are in the mix. We went through the multi-year capital planning process and benefits. We discussed the rising in construction and material costs that are impacting our budget and had that significant impact from July to December, taking us from a surplus position to a balanced position now. We discussed the capital report card, which is continually being updated and starting to head into our year-end audit process. And then we reviewed the project changes. I'm going to just touch on a couple slides just to go through the process again. I know the director just spoke about the process, but just to reiterate the 2 times a year that we go through this. So between January and June, we receive the updated pricing, we prepare budget sheets, we revise the multi-year capital plan to ensure that we have the appropriate funding. And new this year, we will be taking, as staff, our divisional budgets to the different committees to solicit their feedback prior to coming back to council in June. The input that we'll be seeking from the committees at that time is to review the projects, allow them to ask staff questions, and then we will more or less take a list of notes for council to consider. So we're not looking for the committees to say, take that project out or give that direction without council approval, but we're going to ask them to, that council considers A, B, C, or D, and we'll summarize all of that for our June presentation. In June, we will review these sheets with council again. We'll have a similar session. I believe there's been a half day or a day allocated to this at the end of June, where I will present the multi-year capital plan. I will add a few slides about our gas tax funding, our Ontario Community Infrastructure funding, and show where that funding is being allocated for projects moving forward. And then we will allow council that time to do the in-depth council questions and discussions about the projects. Then we'll get that report approved in July before the council holiday so that staff can continue to move forward with projects that have been approved. We will continue to work June to December with engineers, consultants, our project staff, getting pricing, updating pricing, making sure that when that tender goes out in 2024, that we have considered all of those construction costs, material factors before we put the tender out, because our hope is to have that all cleaned up and figured out so that we're not constantly coming back to council seeking approval after the tender prices have been received. And then a year from now, we will have that mid-year update report similar to the one that we're just doing here. It's more of an update to show the X amount of changes that we have made over the course of the year to reflect the kind of the market that we're dealing with. I'm just going to briefly summarize the 2024 changes. I know we discussed it last time, but just to kind of bring it out forward, and then I will leave the wording for the 25 to 2028 projects if council wishes to bring those up. The 2024 projects include the Bayshore, the replacement of the sound system. It was an emergency replacement that was approved in December, and we are going to be funding this year. In the downtown core, we will be adding new benches and street furniture. That's $20,000 in new funding from the city's collection of the MAT tax that will start this spring. The next couple of projects are engineering related, being the 9th Avenue East, the Alpha Street reconstruction. Those two projects are an example of where staff have continued to work since the summertime with the engineers to further the designs. They've got public feedback, they've got committee feedback. And these are now kind of the pre-tender estimates for these projects. So we're bringing it back to council. Because we haven't awarded those projects, it would give council an opportunity to give staff direction before those tenders went out, ideally. In some cases, the Alpha Street project has gone out to tender. It has gone through that process. It's currently out to tender in order for us to get ahead of the construction season and kind of get the interested contractors bidding early in the year and to allow us to complete the project by the end of this year. Another engineering project was the pedestrian tunnel under 16th Street. I know we discussed it back in December. It was just updated pricing based on the most current structural inspection for that structure. A couple new projects at the fire, the emergency management drone that we discussed at the December 18th meeting. That was an addition to the capital plan that was not included in last June. The funding source was $50,000 from a provincial grant. We have not heard back about that grant, but we confirmed to council at that time that staff would not move forward with that project without receiving the grant funding. The Julie MacArthur Regional Rec Center, there was two new projects based on one being an assessment of the hot water boiler replacement. We have kind of startup and preventative maintenance inspections completed on our refrigeration equipment at both facilities. This one identified kind of a priority project. And the other one was the rink glass replacement due to ongoing concerns, breakages, and the impact on the operating budget to rectify an issue from earlier construction. The other project that we added for 2024 was the asset retirement obligations that went through Corporate Services Committee for approval or recommendation back in November. And at the Tom Thomson Art Gallery, swapping out the replacement of the Air Handler 2 unit for, I believe, Air Handler 3 or 4 that was scheduled later in the plan. We were doing, Air Handler 1 was already approved for replacement in 2024. We went for economies of scale, moved Air Handler 2 to the same time because it's being constructed in the same area and it's going to impact the same areas of the TOM and the operation. So rather than shut the building down for another period, we're just doing those two projects at the same time. For Parks and Open Spaces, the Weaver Creek Boardwalk, we increased the funding or requested increase the funding by $15,000. in order to reflect the current market prices for materials. For the police, it was the addition of the 911 dispatch center for a value of $732,000. That was approved by the Police Services Board for their funding. The remainder of that will be from the police facility budget for the scheduled door and window replacement. That is an obligation of the city to replace those assets. And for the strategic initiatives, an increase in the business planning tool to reflect the work that the project management office, through their investigation, looking into different softwares that would apply to the municipality, completed, and they are looking for some additional funding in order to move forward with a product that will benefit the city. So as I said, I don't think we flagged any 2025 and beyond projects at that point. And on December 18th, we got up to this stage of the multi-year capital plan next steps. And then there were some questions that were starting to come about the individual projects. And as the Director of Corporate Services said, this is Council's opportunity to pick any project out of our 5-year plan. If they have any questions about it, want clarification, want additions, deletions, postponals, now is the time to bring that up so we can make that plan adjustment for the capital plan, or we can defer it to the June update if council wishes. But any of these adjustments will be incorporated into the multi-year capital plan update that I will bring to the next council meeting to seek approval for the list of projects, similar to what has been attached to this agenda for the approved projects for 2024 to 2028. So any changes that we make today, we'll rehash the plan, summarize them in a report to council, bring it back, and that would be our new approved list of projects.
Through you, Your Worship, I need some justification on the establishment of another crosswalk in the 700 block on 2nd Avenue. If somebody can just elaborate on that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the boardwalk or the crosswalk project, that is a project that is contained within the capital model, but currently it is sitting as an unfunded project. So the change for that project was that staff have pushed it out and currently have it as an unfunded project. The rationale behind the project was to standardize the crosswalks in the downtown core. However, when the decision to remove the funding from that project in consultation between kind of the budget team and the engineering team was that it's not necessarily needed at this point, and it could potentially be a conversation between any sort of development in that area. So it's important that we maintain this on our capital model to have those conversations with the potential developers in that area so that it doesn't give the appearance that we're adding something on that we're asking for them. We're showing that there's a need when there's full build out in that area and to maintain that consistency. So as much as it's in here, it's currently unfunded and staff won't proceed until there's a funding source for it.
Two questions, if you could just speak to both of these. The Weavers Creek slight increase again in terms of the estimate cost, and it's starting to really creep up there now at 115. So I'm just wondering what type of parameters staff are kind of looking at in terms of incorporating into the, a line in the sand that we just can't go beyond, or we push it and look for different ways of funding this thing. And secondly, could you speak to the multi-year projects proposed for Duncan McClellan Ballpark as well, just in terms of any considerations that that you're given to those kind of big projects?
I'll go to Pam.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Deputy Mayor Gregg. I think both are really great questions. So Weavers Creek, it shows up as 115, but the city's funding commitment was 50. We canceled a project at Harrison Park, the campground gates. While they're a really great idea from a campground safety and security, operationally, they're really challenging. We took that 15,000 and increased the city's commitment to Weavers Creek to 65. The overall project, with the increase in price of materials and also the complexity of working at the edge and along the water course, thinking that we're going to do that project without any sort of engineering plans or environmental approvals through the Conservation Authority is just, it's not right. So at 65,000, that project still requires us to look for other sources of funding, whether that's a grant or a partnership with a community group, as was outlined in Mr. Parsons' report. In terms of Duncan McClellan Park, there's several years of improvements planned for the park. Many of you met Mr. Eckert Pastrick this morning, who is our new manager of Parks and Open Space. And if you didn't, hopefully I can introduce you at a break today. All of that really to say the Duncan McClellan, as Kate and Brady have talked about, the planning and the work that goes into the front end of many of these capital projects happens often the year ahead or, early in the year. With the vacancy in parks, I really want to give Mr. Pastrick an opportunity to see that park this summer, running, operating, see it without snow on the ground, and do an assessment of, in his mind, what's required to ensure that those diamonds remain as our Class A competitive diamonds. We will commit to council to bring a report back through Community Services outlining what we see as the high priority capital needs up there. That would, of course, include, before any construction, council, you've approved a budget envelope as part of the July approval. We also want to engage with the users there to make sure that we're not doing something that they say, well, jeepers, we never would have done that, or we wouldn't have done that, we would have preferred this. So our plan is not to move forward with those planned Duncan renovations and capital work in 2024, but rather to bring through Community Services Committee a report that would detail and refine the work that's being proposed.
Through you, Mayor. You have just explained some really important information that I'm wondering in the future if we as a council could receive. When we look at an increase, and you said what's changed and an increase, you gave a justification and a rationale of what you took from one part to offset. So although it was overall an increase, you'd done some efficient and creative accounting around that. And that's information that I'm wondering, there's a lot of papers in this report, but whenever we see an increase, or if you've made that adjustment, even as a bullet underneath, to identify what you've done to try and accommodate that so that the overall impact might be less, I would find helpful in future reports, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Worship. Great point by Councillor Merton, but we do have that piece in our agenda. So, Brianna, I think that, Brady, you provided a great document. I think an easier document to have showcased to talk about what changes occurred for 2024 is the summary of project changes attachment, because that details this is what was in, this is not in, why was it modified, here's the reasoning why. And Weavers Creek, for example, notes in there that there was a $15,000 change because of the Harrison Park Gate project. So that I think that's the most important document to be using when we're having this discussion, because that's going to itemize what was in your original plan, what's changed, why has it changed, and how's it been reallocated. So if we could use that opposed to your list, I think is way better. Thank you.
Other questions for Brady? Go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Chair. So when I'm looking at the summary of changes, and I'm seeing things like Alpha Street gone up by $960,000 and the 16th Street pedestrian tunnel gone up by $1.2 million almost. Is there somewhere where it's telling me where that money is coming from, that how we're paying for this now?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. The adjustments are made on the capital detail sheets that are appended to the report. So as we are updating the model, the detail sheets are getting updated as well. So I can't remember which appendix it was. Yes, so that would have been on Appendix 2, or the second attachment being detailed sheets 2027 to, and the 2024 to 26 revisions as well. So here's an example of the change, and it shows where the additional funding is, and then if the clerk could scroll down a little bit, it shows the funding sources for that as well. So it shows out of the Ontario Community Infrastructure Funding, $1.5 million coming from water and $1.1 million coming from wastewater.
Thank you. Just to follow up, I found it difficult when I was going through all of these things that there didn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to the order in which the detail sheets were. Like, it wasn't following projects from 2024 followed by 2025. It was all intermixed, and it didn't follow like the 22P.8 in logical order. So is there a logical way that we can order these that's easier to follow and find things?
Yes, to Councillor Middleborough, through your worship. I think that's something that we can take back and organize. I think right now they are structured similar to that first attachment for the changes that identify by the kind of division. So at Bayshore, so those ones would have been lumped in, the engineering projects would have been lumped in together, but it's something that we can structure or put a header page on moving forward.
Just going to go to some of the project, actually the header, I think it's the third document in the attachments. And this is the list of projects. I do have some questions for you, Brady, to go through here. The 2025 budget, it is funded, the window and door replacement at the animal control. Considering the building, that would seem to be quite a high denomination of monies to put towards just the windows and doors there. Could you speak to that project as the first one to ask about?
Yes, to the Deputy Mayor, through your worship. Those, the pricing for the windows and doors, that was generated through the building condition assessment completed in 2022. I believe that project started with the manager of corporate facilities and then the supervisor. That is based on actual costing for or an estimated cost to replace all of the windows and doors. The building, I believe, was constructed in the early 1990s, and the windows, I don't believe in some cases, are fully functioning either. So that is a quoted price to replace all windows and doors at that facility.
Next one is the concourse stair enclosures at the Bayshore, forecasted a few years out. This is a fairly new project. I think before council, we don't have a lot of familiarity with this item. What is the concourse stair enclosures for $80,000?
Sorry, I'm just looking up the project number to pull up the detail sheet, but I know that I know initially I'll let the Director of Community Services talk about it, but it was one that was driven from the kind of operational efficiencies and energy savings at the site, but I know the Director has more details than that.
Thanks, Brady, for your vote of confidence. It related to an energy audit that was done, and the idea is that by enclosing those staircases, you prevent the cold air from getting up into the bowl or warm air, depending on the season, and it was a recommendation of the facility audit done at the time. So it's around energy efficiency primarily.
Okay. Would be fingers crossed if we make that investment that we recoup the operating cost back out of it. The ALC entrance, this doorway project detail sheet's been there for a few years. It's $50,000. Is there more going on to that project than just the door? Because $50,000 for that, for a doorway, seems to be a considerable sum of money as well. Can you speak to that item?
To the Deputy Mayor, through you, Your Worship. Yes, that project is definitely much more complex than just the 2 doors that are existing. Our hope is to refinish or refurbish the 2 existing heritage doors on that building. That is a component of the cost. I believe if you look at the picture, and I can't remember what the project is, right now there is a bit of a lip that goes from the sidewalk up into that door. There's a threshold that is effectively a trip hazard and not accessible for people accessing that area. So we would also remove that threshold and either build a ramp back or find a way to potentially lower the doors to reframe them so that there's no longer a lip. Also with that lip, and I think if you walk by, if it hasn't been repaired already, there was a significant hole between the ramp and the door frame that there was animals getting in and out of and water. So I believe a component of that is leaving a contingency allowance that when we remove that ramp that we may have to do some foundation repairs due to years of water getting into that area as well. So the doors are probably about 1/3 of that cost to have them removed. But also when we're looking at that, we have to deal with security features as well. So if we have to remove those doors, we have to temporarily hoard and build a whole new setup around that, adjust security systems. So there's a lot of stuff that goes in the back end beyond just refinishing the doors because we don't believe they can be refinished in place. They'll have to physically be removed. So there's a lot of moving pieces. Inside that door, and depending on the future use of that building too, is that we will allow people to get in, but it's very inaccessible. There's 2 stairs down, and if we find that there's not water damage or a high cost to improve the transition into the building, we may look for an opportunity to improve that, but potentially with a ramp if we can get around, but it would depend on the operation of the library.
Okay, and I'll place this question out there, and then staff can circle back, but you'll have a couple minutes to consider this. Are there projects in place right now that the city is endeavoring to apply for accessibility funding? And that you just spoke to some accessibility components to that project. So just in a couple minutes, somebody can think about that, what we might have underway. Harrison Park Community Hall Parking Refresh Gravel, 24D5. This one, I wonder, when we have certain projects like that, do we work alongside our own Public Works Department and we can operationalize some of these costs? That one jumps out. Just wondering if we can do that internally and just fund it through the operating budget with time and materials. I mean, materials are essentially a capital cost, but also we have 2 licensed carpenters on staff as well. And when we go through the document, they've done a lot of great work in the last 6-7 years for the city. Is their time spent essentially all found in the capital document sheets here because they're working on facilities and buildings, or are they completely within the operating budget? I see those 2 projects kind of tethered together in terms of what we operationalize and what we capitalize.
I'm going to break that up and go to Pam with the first one with regard to gravel and work between the departments.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Council. The Enabling Accessibility Grant is the federal grant specifically designed around accessibility, and it only allows you to have an application every 2 years. Council currently has received funding, $100,000 for DRP Phase 2, so we're not eligible to apply until after that's implemented and waiting that 2-year window. But we're always looking at grant opportunities. Just last week there was a green infrastructure grant, so we are always looking at those. In terms of the gravel, and I think it's a great question, and the renewal of the track at Victoria Park last year was a really great example of purchasing materials and then working with Laura and her team at Public Works and with their equipment, the grader. Jeff and his team did a great job of partnering with Parks, bringing that capital project significantly in under budget. Council has as a service review recommendation those joint work plan meetings between Parks and Works, and I think so we'll continue to see those efficiencies and synergies between the two teams wherever possible. And I'll let Brady talk about the other staff.
Yes, to the Deputy Mayor, through your worship. In addition to the grants, I think I've mentioned this before, but every Tuesday afternoon, city staff receive an email from the Public Sector Digest Grant Service. So every Tuesday about 5 o'clock, we receive an email that summarizes a bunch of the grants that have come out that week, that have applications coming due, or any sort of government announcement that from places like Roma or OGRA conference, they flag those in the future. Those go to the director team and our management team so that we can kind of see, will we apply to those grants? But also I know that many of the directors and many of the managers are also taking that grant service email and forwarding it to other community associations saying, hey, the city can't apply for this, but we understand that you want to undertake this project. Here's an opportunity for you to apply for that grant service. It costs the city about $600 a year, and I think we've already made our money back off of it, just even through receiving one grant or just staff not having to spend hours and hours and hours searching for the grants. They're already linked there with the link to the guide. So we are constantly watching grants. We don't build a grant into this program unless it's something that we know for sure, or we know that it's eligible, but we would never move forward until we have a transfer payment agreement in place or documents in place saying that we actually do have that money physically coming to the city. For the facility staff, yes, we do have the two carpenters on staff, or if they were initially hired to undertake a lot of the capital projects, they still do complete probably maybe 5 to 10 projects, smaller projects a year. But now as our building stock is starting to age, even a building like this, like they're going to be here 2 to 3 days this week starting to deal with this building, those staff members are transitioning more to a maintenance team and making small maintenance repairs to each one of these facilities, or being responsible for bringing in contractors. When we bring a contractor into some of these buildings, particularly places like the police station, we also have to have our staff on site with those contractors from time to time. Some of the projects that they have completed in-house this year were some of the upgrades at the Harrison Park Pool, the Kinsman washrooms, the Bayshore washrooms, anywhere where we can kind of have maybe a month to 6 weeks to do a project, because quite often they'll start a project, they'll get a phone call from the police station saying a toilet just broke and it's flooding everywhere. And then they'll get back to the project and then something happens here at City Hall and they're getting pulled away from those. So if we have a project that has to be completed by May 1st, a lot of the time we do have to contract that out just because we don't have enough time in the spring to get the bathrooms open, do a construction project, and do all the day-to-day maintenance. When we look through those projects, we just recently had a meeting with the Parks and Open Space team. We went through the list of facility projects and said, here's 4 or 5 projects that our staff can do in-house. Here's ones where we need to bring in an architect, or here's ones where our in-house project coordinator can scope the work. So we do balance our capital projects out, and we also look forward into the future years into 2025 so that we can determine, as we're putting these numbers together, what we can afford or what the costs are going to be for those projects. So they do balance the capital and maintenance needs as we see fit.
So do they show up in the capital budget or on the operations budget, I think was the question. Hey, Travis?
Thank you, Worship. When we hired those 2 positions, that was the intent of those positions were to reduce our external spending on capital, right? We were going to have 2 people. They were going to do all of those jobs. But to hearing that they're going to fix a toilet in those situations begins to start saying, well, wouldn't that just make more sense just to call JP Plumbing or whoever plumbing to come and spend $500 and fix the toilet, opposed to sending someone who's a fairly decent salaried employee to go do that job? That way they can kind of focus in. I'll be honest, I don't think that sounds efficient when you say they're on doing a 4-week job and they get pulled out to fix a toilet. I don't think that's efficiency. So I just would like to maybe, I understand staff, you guys oversee and you're going to see everything and do your cost analysis basis on it. But for me, when we originally hired those staff, it was about assisting with capital, and then to hearing that they're mostly switching into an operating side of things, just does raise a little bit of concern to me that, are we utilizing the time properly, or, what has it changed since that time when we hired them? Because again, all of a sudden we're just going back externally for large-scale capital projects. So if you could just provide a little bit of feedback would be great to ease my mind.
Yes, to Councillor Dodd, through you, Your Worship. That we've had that conversation internally many times about allocating out kind of to capital, to operating. In order to do a lot of these projects in-house, we still don't have the necessary kind of skills and educational requirements or license requirements. When I talk about going to fix a toilet, it's not the full in-depth plumbing. We still figure that, but if it's something that it's just come off the wall and needs to be put back together, those small kind of repairs to stop something from flooding, to go shut off the water, those are the types of projects that the maintenance staff do. Even for the capital projects, like yes, we have our staff have the skills in carpentry, but we don't have an in-house electrician, we don't have an in-house plumber, we don't have an in-house HVAC staff members. We don't have each one of those 3 skill sets. So a lot of time we have to contract that out, whether it's operating or capital. So the projects that we do in-house are those kind of carpentry related, like the small washroom renovations. But something like the Bayshore Community Center washroom, we still had to bring a plumber in to do some of that work. We still have to bring an electrician in to do that work. Our staff can't do that. But where we're getting the cost savings is that our staff are doing that carpentry cheaper than a general contractor coming in and subbing that work out.
That's great. So are those 2 our only maintenance staff that we have in the city?
To Councillor Dodd, through your worship, yes, those are our 2 kind of facility, like carpentry type of work. Our maintenance staff at the parks and the arenas, they will do the small repairs. They try to do as much in-house within their skill sets to avoid having to call the 2 facility staff to come in. We do have currently right now on contract, I believe until the end of this year or next year, there's a plumber that has been doing the project with the water staff. If there is availability from that staff and they can build it in the schedule, we have been borrowing from the plumber to come do some small repairs for us as well. They won't have the capability to undertake the large projects, once again, because they're servicing the water side, but if there's a small repair that can be made, we have been getting that assistance.
And thanks for the responses there. I appreciate, the last I had been aware of Victoria Park track was a $10,000 budget item. So it's good insight to hear how we've accomplished that work, other than me just being on top of it and seeing that was done. Next question is 26B1. This is a couple years down the road here. It's ground signs for Bayshore and the Julie MacArthur. I think it was only about 5 or 6 years ago we had $60,000 or so for a new sign at the Julie MacArthur. It's not functioning now. I guess disappointing would be an understatement in terms of how that sign's functioned and the longevity that we've received out of it. What does that $75,000 entail? What have we investigated in terms of remediating the sign that's in place there that has failed after just a few years?
To the Deputy Mayor, through your worship, yes, the current sign has failed. I believe there's component failures, and I'm under the understanding that it cannot be repaired, so these would be replacement signs. The reason why that project right now is currently listed under the strategic initiatives team is that I believe it's also being considered as a communication tool for the committee, not just what's going on necessarily in either one of those facilities. So I believe Michelle and her team would be looking to replace the signs that are with something that's very similar in scope and could potentially be controlled even from here at City Hall by our staff to use those as communications for good news stories, bad news stories, emergencies. And I think a lot of the intention behind some of that project would be to look at potential kind of sponsorship opportunities or third-party funding opportunities to offset the purchase of those. So right now it's just flagging that project as a potential need based on the failure of the existing sign of the Julia MacArthur, and it allows staff to continue to focus on how exactly that would be scoped and how exactly that would be funded in the future. But right now this would be a like-for-like replacement.
Okay, I won't comment on that one any further at this time. Just got 2 other items here. 22N3, water main capital reinvestment in support of SkyDev, and 22N5 is water main capital reinvestment in support of paving program. I guess one comment I'd make, we've lowered the capital investment for the resurfacing project in 2024 to 300,000. We forecasted it back to 600. I'm glad to see that we're fully funded again here this morning in terms of the 5-year, because I was going to speak to the 600,000. I'm a big believer in resurfacing, and it's going to be more important as people get heavier EVs, even as personal vehicles. But we have some really big projects coming up in the city in the next few years. And if we take a look at the entirety of what we're getting resurfaced, when you include the streets like Alpha Street and 4th Avenue West from 15th Street to 20th Street or even further north perhaps, 9th Avenue for a couple blocks, but 4 lanes. So these big reconstruction projects, I mean, they do resurface large areas of our city and the main roadways. So we're talking arterials and collectors, not just little locals. So I would have, coming in today, if we weren't balanced, I was certainly going to look at that $600,000. Flip side of that is we have staff that need to service that $600,000 every year, or whatever the program is too. We've got engineering techs that go in and look at catch basin repairs or concrete repairs, whatever. The water main capital reinvestment and supportive paving program, have you already identified certain roads then that have a significant need for water main replacement? And the water main capital reinvestment support SkyDev, I've spoke to these projects in the past. How far do we extend ourselves financially while we wait for construction and development to occur before we get it on the books? Because we do have a limit as to how far we can extend ourselves.
Through your worship, if we start with the last question first, I'll do that and then pass it back to Brady, the Director of Public Works. In terms of SkyDev, the projects identified in support of SkyDev are only being done because there is some efficiency of doing them at the same time that SkyDev will have some disruption. So there's a water main looping, there's a very old water main in that area, but these projects will not proceed until SkyDev starts. There is a detailed report that will cover the servicing agreement and that arrangement between SkyDev and the city. It's coming forward probably at the end of February, early March. It'll be from Public Works and planning staff, and it'll outline in significant detail for council exactly what projects the city will be responsible for, what the county will be doing, and then who's paying for what and what those shares are. But I would assure council that those things won't happen unless the developer is initiating their project.
Yes, and then to the Deputy Mayor, through your worship, in regards to the road resurfacing program, that program, currently we are using the Canada Community Benefit Fund, or the former federal gas tax. It funds that program. Our larger reconstruction projects, which are effectively almost just one a year if it's not purely a water main project like the looping project, those one single infrastructure replacement projects are being funded by the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund. So we are doing a significant amount of work on our roads, and a lot of that is actually from third-party funding that's not actually coming from the taxation. As we continue to build the asset management plan and looking at those levels of service and how we're going to fund our future proposed levels of service, I think that's where we will have that conversation about, is this the correct use of those funds? How could these be used? Can we flip the programs around? Should we be allocating some of this funding even towards water or wastewater projects to maintain the affordability of those two user fees? So that'll be more of the conversation that we get to have with council in 2025 leading into that plan, so that we can have that direction as staff on where we need to go in the future. With regards to the road resurfacing project, where it's kind of funded under the roads budget, but then also from the water budget, Laura and her staff do meet quite regularly to update that capital plan, not just for this year, but into the future years, so that if we're resurfacing a road in 2025, the water staff are aware of it in 2024 and can make those necessary valve replacements leading into that project. So there is coordination. And as we move forward with asset management software and integrating things like that with our GIS, we'll be able to produce those maps in-house that prevent us us from trying to do something where we dig it up a year or two down the road. We'll be able to visualize that as a group and work towards that. So unless the director has anything to add on, I think that's kind of a high-level summary of it.
Brady, we really like when you do the replacement of the water in the pipes under the road the year before you pave versus the other way around that you see in bigger municipalities, with beautiful paving, and then they tear it up the next year. And I guess that's part of the beauty of a capital plan. Other questions? Go ahead. Oh, well, one or the other. Quit being polite.
Thank you, through you, Chair. My question would be in regards to the projects that are happening on 9th, like the water main looping and water main replacement or something, and then the 4th Ave West from 15th to 20th. So there's 2 water main type projects. Are they in any way connected or happening at the same time to reach some sort of economy of scale or disruption, lack of disruption? And then along 4th, why is it split into like 15th to 17th one year and then 17th to 20th the next year? Is it simply a costing issue, or would it be more beneficial to do the whole thing and borrow from a reserve and then get the grant funding or OCIF or whatever we're paying the next year and then apply that back to the reserve? Is that possible? Is there a reason why we split it into 2?
Yes, to Councillor Midabo, through you, Your Worship. It's a combination of the funding and kind of the cash flow and making sure that we do have that OCIF funding. Unless there was some sort of good news recently at Roma, the OCIF funding program has no confirmation beyond 2027, so we're not necessarily planning projects too far in the future, allocating that funding until we get a little bit closer to that window. In addition to kind of the cash flow side of it, we also have to look at the staffing resources and what it would take to operate a project like that on a much larger scale between our current engineering tech team and our manager of engineering. That team is responsible for those infrastructure projects, but they also support the planning team, and it's balancing out to make sure that we can adequately enforce and follow the contracts that we're issuing. So I think it's a combination of both.
It's also so we don't spend $400,000 in capital one year and $11 million the next, like others, which means, tax fluctuations that hit 9.9% versus 4% and bouncing all over year after year. It's trying to be level and consistent. Other questions? You had one, yes.
Through Your Worship, I have a few. So I want to go back to your discussion about resources, human resources, and in relation to, as we go through our facilities assessment, one of the gaps I'm hearing is around the trades, and we're contracting out for trades. Is there an HR strategy that will align as we move forward with our capital plan that will start to bring on board some of the trades that would be used most commonly for the items that our buildings require, recognizing we may not have all of it, but linking the HR strategy with the capital investment with the grants and fundings, what's the connection?
Yes, to Councillor Merton, through Your Worship. Absolutely, that's a conversation we have had internally about how we can support these projects going forward. And I do think that the building condition assessment project will help define those capital needs over the longer term. I'm actually kicking that project off with the consultant this afternoon. We'll be doing the inspections in February and March, and we'll have the report in time for the asset management plan in June. As we go through that, we'll then be able to see, okay, right now we're doing 30 buildings externally and hoping to do the rest internally. We'll have that plan that shows the types of projects going in the forward. And then I think that would be the foundation to obviously determining what we need from a building stock going forward, but also from, do we have enough staff to maintain what we have? And I know right now we do struggle to keep up with those core maintenance activities that allow these pieces of equipment to operate efficiently. And then from the construction side, if we have 25 projects that need plumbing, then that'll allow me to develop a business case to work with the treasurer about, okay, here's the business case to justify that right now. I think if I were to prepare that and bring it to you today, I don't think it would be comprehensive enough for you to have that comprehensive evaluation and conversation about it. But I think between those projects and also looking at the levels of service that we'll work in development with council on, is that if we want to continue to have the 80 buildings and we want to continue to have them as Class A buildings, and here's the priorities, whether it's health and safety or public access or availability, then that will generate the business case to look at bringing trades in-house in the future.
Thank you. Through your worship, I know in the past we've discussed about the painting of the hydrants. So I have two questions. First of all, about the hydrants. As we're talking about starting to align parks and other staffing, is there an opportunity as we move forward, first of all, to have the reevaluation of the hydrants? Historically, they're painted or refreshed every so often, but even to do an assessment on what needs to be done, and then start to have that as a shared task amongst a variety of staff categories. So that's a question. I have one more.
Through your worship to Councillor Merton, the hydrant painting, as I understand it, is actually done by a contractor. They come in and they sandblast them down to bare metal, and then they paint them. So, except for touch-ups, that wouldn't be done by any staff classes.
Through your worship. So do we do a needs assessment, or is that $90,000 for all of them to be done at once, irrespective of the requirement? It's a lot of money.
Through your worship, I do agree. It does sound like a lot of money, and I don't know off the top of my head if it's all of them or a good portion of them, like half of them. I would have to check, but I do think that it is all of them, because there's only one designation for it in the budget at this point in time. Sorry, what was the rest of your question?
That was in relation to the hydrant. I do have one other question. So the other question is just about the wastewater treatment plant, the $150,000 to the tank accumulates sediment and it has to be cleaned out. Is that a contracted functionality as well?
Through your worship, yes, it's a hauler that hauls the digester sludge away, yes.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Very thank you for answering all our questions. I just have a quick question. In report 25V, it says about replacing the windows at the library. Is it a need, or is it a part of the beautification process, like for the heritage purposes?
To Councillor Karasia, through your worship, that is a need for that building. Those are original. If you look particularly around the entrance area, a lot of the frames are beginning to rust out. They have rehabilitated the kind of heritage ones on the Carnegie side of the building. They did that through a combination of in-house staff and products. But if you look at the remainder of the doors and the windows with those aluminum frames, or the steel frames, those are all starting to rust out and rot away, probably from salt usage and just usage over the years. For the doors and for the windows, they are just starting to age out. And that's the type of project that I think it scares me the most about this building condition assessment, is that we're only seeing the bad side of it, but the consultants will have a better idea. The company that we're using has done over 25,000 of these assessments. They'll be able to help us project into the future, saying that has about 5 years left in it, that has about 10 years left in it, where we're still kind of reactionary dealing with items that we're just dealing with problems. They're going to help forecast those into the future for us as well, to give us a better understanding of what our needs are going to be, but more importantly, where do we have that economies of scale, so that I'm not replacing them in year 3, year 5, and year 7. We'll have those conversations. Can we push a couple back? Can we bring a couple forward and just do it at one time to minimize the disruption and save on some costs from mobilization as well?
One more. At the library, is there another exit point into the Adult Learning Center, or is it just that main door?
Yes, to Member Kukreja, our Councillor Kukreja, through you, Your Worship. That is not the accessible door. So there is an alternative way through the basement of the library, but I think if you and I went over there, it would almost be like us going through a maze if we don't deal with it quite regularly. You go down a hallway, I think you potentially even go through the staff area in some cases in order to access that site if you have accessibility needs to access it. So it's not the most ideal from an accessibility standpoint to have that operation down there, but obviously when you're constrained for space, we make do with what we have.
And last question I have is, when we plan the capital budget, we tend to tender out most of our projects out, right? But I get it, because of COVID, the costs were completely opposite to what we had anticipated. But now, since things normalize after COVID, and when we tender out something, and do we have, if we tender out a project, if there are 5 tenders, one is the highest bid and one is the lowest bid, and there is so much of discrepancy in the highest and the lowest one, do we have a policy to cap the lowest one, or they can just come up with any random amount after a couple of years?
To Member or Councillor Kukreja, through your worship, our policy and our purchasing policy is the lowest bidder is the one that we accept. For some large-scale projects, if we had a concern about kind of contractor availability, skill sets, and the ability to undertake projects, there are pre-qualification processes. So City Hall here, I believe there was a pre-qualification in late 2016, just to make sure that the people bidding on the projects were capable of undertaking a project like this. So that is a factor that we would consider to make sure that we're getting the qualified staff and what they're bidding is going to be accurate. And in some cases, we know of projects that have been tendered kind of locally or recently that sometimes these general contractors do bid low and make very minimal profit on the projects in order to maintain their staffing and resources. I know during COVID that some of these contractors lost staff or had to pay them more, so they've retained their really kind of core team, and they want to make sure that they are keeping that core team kind of in Owen Sound through the winter months. So sometimes we do get favorable pricing so that they don't have to pay for these people to leave town, stay in hotels and eat, and it keeps them happy that they can go home to work every night. So some bidders do sometimes bid a little bit lower for that reason.
Thank you, Brady.
Okay, anyone else? Brock, go ahead.
Just when I think I know the answer to it, but I want to be very, very clear on it. Just when I was going through the actual sheets of all the items, I noticed a lot of reserve, and I just want to be sure that was always planned, because I think if you look around, a lot of municipalities are having very high tax increases this year because they drained their reserves, and I just want to make sure we're not doing the same thing.
Yes, to Councillor Hamley, through your worship. No, that is something that we make sure when we're reviewing the capital detail sheet, we do review it with the treasurer to look at the reserve balances. A lot of the places that you're seeing the reserves in places like City Hall, the arenas, is that over the years, we have been putting those funds away into a reserve in order to fund these future projects. So we're slowly building them up. Now we're going to start using them in some of these cases. So it is something that we do evaluate to make sure that that money is going to be there. Or now where we're starting to project, like one of the items that was new this year was for the parking lots. We noticed that we weren't necessarily allocating any money towards our parking lot, so that was a new addition to the operating budget that was put in. It reduced that to capital allotment, but now it's starting to go to the right place. The asset management plan is only going to drive that much further when we look through it and saying, okay, now that we're taking on this new asset, how are we going to fund in the future? And another example of that would be the emergency drone that we discussed at the last meeting. Okay, day one, we get the $50,000 from the province. We buy that asset. It's got a 5 to 10 year lifespan. How are we paying for that? We have a detailed sheet with the fire equipment on there that determines what the future needs are of that, and then it determines what the transfer to the reserve that goes into the operating budget is. So now that's one new piece of equipment. So if it's $50,000 and it has a 10-year lifespan, you're going to notice in the future that that operating budget contribution will now go up $5,000 to start to allocate and save up that money for the 10-year replacement of it.
Thank you, Worship. I think it's great that all these questions are coming, and I think one thing we need to really highlight on is Brady, Cheyenne, all the staff have done an incredible job and been pre-planning for this, 5 years ago. Where you're starting to see our comparative municipalities not providing that capital expense into their operating budgets to keep those budgets low, so it looks really good when they go into an election. But with the long time of pre-planning what we're doing now, we're way ahead of the game compared to our comparators. We're way ahead of the game compared to municipal comparators as well. because of doing the things that we're doing now. Pre-planning is the most important thing you could probably do. Instead of acting reactionary and saying, wait a second, we're going to come up with $11 million, we already know where we're going to do that. So they're all great questions, and I think the one thing we need to highlight, especially from the director's report on last Monday regarding the budget and the historical side of the budget, is how prepared our staff has been and how great our staff is at planning our budgets, whether it's operating or capital. And I think we do owe you, all of you, a great, appreciation and thank you for the work that you've done and pre-planned for this. So that way, we all may have our own differences of what we want to fund each year, but the importance is that underlining message of saying, we are going to put this much money away so we don't run into a surprise. So before we ended this or got too far ahead, I just wanted to make sure there was some appreciation to staff for that, because asset management's coming up in 2025. And municipalities are going to have a big eye-opening when they haven't been planning for how they're going to pay for their capital enhancements. We are already 3 steps ahead of most municipalities. So we're still going to have a challenge? Absolutely. It's going to be even greater for other municipalities who haven't been properly funding their capital, and it's going to be a big eye-opener for their residents when they see, wait a second, we haven't been funding the replacement of this facility for 25 years. They're going to be in for a surprise. So I just want to thank you all for the work that you've done, because again, I think great questions from council. We may say we have a different flavor. I want to support XYZ and you want to support ABC. But in the end, as long as we're staying on to that strategy and enhancing that strategy of how we're putting capital enhancement first, we all know that capital projects, you can cut capital. It's real easy. It's real easy to say we're not going to fund something and keep our taxes extremely low, except that it doesn't go away. There's a hole in your roof. You can say I'm not going to do it this year. There's going to be water in your ceiling, and you're going to have extra costs, and it's going to still be there. Next year, you're still going to have to fund it. It's probably going to cost you more money. So I just wanted to show that appreciation to you. So thank you.
Go ahead.
2 quick points. Circling back to Councillor Merton's comment of the fire hydrant painting, I wonder if that $90,000 doesn't just get extracted from the water rate study, because I do feel like 2 or 3 years ago when we last went through this, it came in considerably under budget. So that might just be something that staff can bring back in June, is just to make a note there and assess where the actual pricing came in, because I feel like it was about $47,000 or something, and we had, I think, maybe the same $90,000 in the forecast. As well, I guess today's probably the day to mention this, but I'd like to hear from staff. This might be something you bring back. Going back several years, I can think of one gentleman that served the city on the accessibility committee, spoke to 20th Street East from 5th Avenue to 9th Avenue East in terms of accessibility, safety, crossing that busier street. It's busier than 19th Street, busier than 18th Street, so forth. It's a street that doesn't have sidewalks. It's not well illuminated. There is some correspondence comes through occasionally in terms of that roadway not being suitable for kids walking to school or so forth. So just wonder in terms of, it's not something that's in the 4-year timeline right now, but is it something staff can consider, go back into the transportation master plan, see just how it may align itself with improvements that the city could realize, just being that we've had commentary about that street and concerns with it in the past.
Sorry, to the Deputy Mayor, I can kind of touch on, I know we have had that conversation between kind of the budgeting team and the engineering team. And I think you said the keywords when you were asking the question about the transportation master plan. I believe the current version is 2012. So that project is in the 5-year capital plan to update that and reflect kind of what has changed here in the city since that time. And I think with that, there has been an increased attention being paid to active transportation. So as we went through the list of projects with the engineering team, some of those additions were the ones that we started to unfund because we didn't have that money going forward. And when we're talking about our ability to afford what we have, adding to it, does that additional sidewalk, does that mean now we're into an additional sidewalk clearing machine? Are we into an additional employee? So I think the transportation master plan update would be something that would focus on, okay, where do we need to add on, and then develop a phasing plan that includes those operational and construction costs. So that document, I think, will be potentially moved to, depending on resources, could be moved up sooner if they could allocate the resources to it to help support the asset management plan and to help support all of these other initiatives in order to make that kind of decision and public consultation, get it up front, rather than these kind of one request from this side of the city, another request from the other side. We'll have that document that will show where that is going forward, and then how can we tie that in? Is it simply an addition, or is it part of a reconstruction project? I think having that kind of guiding document will help kind of prioritize and put something that you can give a definitive answer back rather than it being pushed down the line.
Through your worship, I just want to also echo the comments by Councillor Dodd. When I sit here and listen to all of the comments back to our questions, I am so appreciative of the work that all of you do and that you are able to provide that feedback to us. We all have the same goal, that's sustainability of our capital assets as well as our human resources. From a governance perspective, we're obligated for sure for that oversight to ask you the questions, and from the operational perspective, you're giving us the answers, which is extremely important for sure. So in addition to the thank you, I have a question around your, we talk about reserves, and I'm wondering, perhaps you can refresh my memory if I've missed it. In our policy around reserves, do we have a threshold percentage that we have established? Or should we, if we don't?
Through you, Your Worship, we do have a reserve and reserve fund policy, and it lays out for every reserve if there are certain thresholds that we aim to reach. So for example, for our tax stability reserve, our goal is to increase that until it holds about 3% of our gross levy each year. We're not there yet, but in the meantime, anytime the city does run a surplus, the policy states that it will be added to that reserve until we reach that threshold. Other reserves, reserve funds, are often tied to specific assets. So for example, our fleet replacement reserves are sustainable in that they can replace our existing fleet, and the contributions to them ensure that there will always be enough funding available to replace the fleet that we have. So it really depends on the exact reserve as far as what the requirements are. But all of that is in that policy, and if once our reserves change or if there are any changes, we would bring that for you for an update. But I can certainly send you that policy if that's something that you'd like.
Through your worship, so is it possible to almost get a report card on the reserve policy, but how it actually breaks down into the different categories?
Certainly, every time I do a year-end report, there is a detailed reserve in the appendix to that shows the balance of each reserve, and it often has in comments what the goal balance is or how that reserve is to be utilized.
Through your worship, when we move forward to our asset management and the facilities assessment, you currently use an evaluation tool, which is our priority tool. Will that be the same tool that will be used as you bring forward that information around our facilities?
To Councillor Merton, through your worship, yes, for the time being, we'll continue to use the prioritization schedule. I think we have an opportunity to look at that through some of the projects like the strategic priorities project and through the asset management plan that dictates the proposed or desired levels of service as we work with council. It can help dictate how we want to do that going forward, or what we're going to put weight on items moving forward.
Thank you, Your Worship. Back to the issue of painting the fire hydrants and reserves. Can you explain to me why we anticipate $90,000 in the year that we're going to do this work, as opposed to setting aside a reserve for this account when we know it's got to happen every so many years?
To Councillor Kipke, through your worship, I believe we're undertaking maybe towards the end of this year or next year an updated water and wastewater rate study that will help dictate that. I imagine that a lot of this also stems from kind of lack of prior investment in these assets, where we're not necessarily having that opportunity to continue to put the reserves away to actually spend them in the future. I imagine a lot of our contribution of reserves right now are probably currently funding a lot of our wastewater needs. So as we move forward and looking at the rates, we'll have to factor in kind of what those current and future needs are and evaluate that at that time.
I'll just add to that as well. So we've included water and wastewater here for council's information, and that was actually a request that we received in previous years where we hadn't necessarily included water and wastewater capital at the time we were looking at the tax-funded capital, because it's generally not funded through that capital levy dollars. But it does give you a sense of the jobs that we're doing, the staff resource requirements, and often there are road projects that are related to water projects that are happening at the same time. So just like the goal with our capital levy is to have a stable amount of funding despite the fact that our expenditures are going up and down. When we look at water and wastewater rates in the spring, we have the same goal. So we're looking for a stabilized rate that can ensure that we can meet these water and wastewater capital projects over time. And anytime we have a surplus of funds, because our capital spending is a little low that year, that money goes into the reserve so that it's available for those years when our capital spending might be a little bit higher than what we're collecting in rates that year. So when we see something is funded by reserves or not funded by reserves, it's simply reflecting that cash flow balancing that we do as part of setting the water and wastewater rates.
Okay, so we good? So I just want to make a couple of comments, and a whole bunch of things have come out today, but when I went on council in 2010, prior to that, Marion, you'd remember this, you would have been working here. When council went to budget, they did operations first and they did capital second. So they'd come to a settlement in operations and then they would nickel and dime capital to the nth to try and balance a budget for keep the taxes as low as could be. It wasn't responsible. Whether it was Mayor Haswell, whether it was Ruth Corsi or Wayne, I can't remember at the time, switched it around. We started to look at capital separately and move it a little bit away from the budget process. Most of us around the room remember what this building was like. Single pane glass from 1960. How many times did the ceiling in this room leak and collapse? Totally neglected, totally irresponsible. Coliseum, remember the Coliseum? We've got a new rec center, mostly because the Coliseum was at the end of life because we didn't look after it. A hole in a door where water and animals get in at the library? We shouldn't even be a question there. Like, that shouldn't happen. Travis probably remembers, maybe Marion, maybe Scott. We got a report a few years ago that if, at the rate that we were paving streets, looking at the streets that are deteriorated now and needed to be paved now, it was going to take us 100 years to catch up to those. Naturally, every other street in the city was going to become dilapidated and fall apart. Multi-year capital plan with a policy coming, service review plan that we've approved that we're going to be looking at in the next few years, so during this term. Asset management plan. It started, it was mandated by the province coming out of Walkerton inquiry for water, and I believe we did wastewater the exact same time we started water. And then each year or over the years, we've expanded it out to more and more of our assets to try and manage them, to try and understand them. A lot of other municipalities, as Travis has just said, probably only still have the water reserve plan because reserve study, because or business plan, because that's all they had to do. Revenue fund policy, water wastewater financial study that gets redone every couple of years that's coming up, and I think that's responsible stewardship. Each year for a number of years, we've tried to put in 1% or close to 1% annual tax increase to capital. That's trying to catch up to the decisions that were made before 2010. If you read the media this week on Georgian Bluffs, Mayor Carlton had a really interesting comment that it was, I wish we had put money into reserves for this year when we tried to keep our taxes low, something to that effect. Cutting taxes and, having a 2% increase is great, and then all of a sudden they hit a year like this, they need to put money into their capital and they don't have it. Some of us that have been kicking around long enough will remember Meaford from about, 08, 06 to I think about 2014. They had a ratepayers association that sort of affected the election. They got Mayor Reef elected. They went with 0 budget increases for 3 years. What they did is they chewed up the reserves. They had a bridge that was being flooded and they needed to repair it, and they did not have the money to repair it. The province either stepped in or was very close to stepping in. They did a study that said they had to increase their taxes by 10% to rebuild their, for 5 years, each of 5 years. 10, to rebuild the reserves for capital that they had borrowed to keep their taxes low. And that's just not responsible. Everything that we're doing is responsible. As Travis has said, there's a lot of municipalities looking in at us going, man, you guys are ahead of us. And it's going to show up in the next few years. I think it's showing up now, and we've had the lowest tax increases as a percentage compared to our neighbors. In fact, we look at Georgian Bluffs this year, the actual dollar amount in Owen Sound is going to be less than what their increase is going to be. So Scott mentioned what happens if council changes, and Kate talked about priority changes. It's possible that the next council will come in with different priorities. But I can remember when I was told in the first couple of years that we didn't have money to do this, we didn't have money to do that because we were carrying heavier debts and couldn't do it. My last day when I walk out of here, I'm not leaving the next council broke. I'm not leaving the next council with their hands tied because of decisions I made. I'm leaving the next council set up, ready to go, with a strategic plan, with service review plan, with those things that benefits this council, benefits this city for years to come. It's forward thinking, it's responsible, it's long-term planning, and it means that you got to put proper amount into the budget each year and be able to protect the government, because if we do 1 year at a time, do cuts, we will harm, there's another word I was going to use, future councils, and we can't do that. So glad we met today. Going forward, Kate, when you have your December, don't put this meeting on the last meeting of the year. Don't put it on a council meeting that's very busy. We just had a good conversation. Let's do a special meeting earlier in December. Let's look at it where we have time. On a regular meeting, this is too big. We're 90 minutes now. This is too big to have at a regular council meeting if we can. So with that, I think we probably need a motion to receive the report and being 6A. There's a motion right in front of us. Have you got it, Scott, or?
No, but I'll move it.
Oops.
I'll comment that I will move the recommendation that in consideration staff report 23-124 respecting multi-year capital plan 2024 to 2028. City Council 1 approves the projects funded within the multi-year capital plan 24 to 28, and 2 directs staff to bring forward a further update to the multi-year capital plan 25 to 29 for subsequent approval on June 24.
Any discussion of the motion? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? And that is carried. So next is number 7.
Moved by myself, Deputy Mayor Gregg, that the Committee of the Whole rise and report.
All in favor? And that's carried.
Moved by myself, Deputy Mayor Gregg, seconded by Councillor Hamley, that the action taken in Committee of the Whole in considering presentations, matters arising from correspondence and matters postponed respecting the multi-year capital plan 2024 to 2028 be confirmed by this Council.
And all in favor? And that is carried. 9, bylaw.
Moved by myself, Deputy Mayor Gregg, seconded by Councillor Hamley, that bylaw number 2024-014 be passed and enacted.
And that's to confirm proceedings of this meeting. All in favor? That is carried. So with that, we're at 10:31. We've completed our business for this special meeting. Thanks, everyone, for coming in. Thanks to Brady, thanks to Kate, thanks to all of the staff that have contributed and built this plan over the years and going forward. Thanks. Go ahead.
I just wanted to mention before we adjourn that Council has received an abundance of emails and issues regarding the budget. A lot of it is, I think, not so factual that they know the facts. And I would certainly welcome people to question the director if they have questions regarding the budget or the mayor. But it's really gotten out of hand in my mind, the comments that are going on through social media, if you want to watch social media or not. But I really encourage people to ask the questions of the right people.
Yeah, it's hard to defend the decisions you make, and it's even more difficult or impossible to try and defend the ones you haven't. Anyone that wants to know what's going on or wants a good explanation, I think go and look at owensound.ca and review Kate's presentation from last Monday's meeting. I think really sets it out. Thanks.
We've got body lotions, body oils, your face care section with all the serums, moisturizers. Oh, there's so many things. Then we have we have the refill station. So our little refillery, which I'm hoping as I get more comfortable with all the things that I'm going to be making, I can actually do some bulk stuff, so there will be more available in the refillery. And so anyone that brings in their own container or bottle to fill gets 10% off when they fill it up, which we will keep doing. Then we have our wellness teas, which I know you've definitely looked at.
Yes.
And they're by Pluck, who is out of Toronto, and it's a female-owned company as well.
Okay.
And then we have our Bloom Superfood Lattes, also woman-owned and out of Vancouver.
And you've just done something very cool with bring in the sample sizes.
Yes, I did bring in the sample sizes. It took a little bit to kind of get that figured out with them, but so the top 3 flavors, the matcha, the salted caramel, and the Reishi hot cocoa. Are in the sample sizes.
I'm coming for that, by the way.
Oh, of course. And I kind of said to them, I'm like, let me know if they have the other ones as well, because I'm definitely interested.
Yeah.
But if anyone ever wants to know like what anything tastes like, I've tried all of them. And I'm addicted to all of them. So
healthy addiction.
Oh, yes, of course.
Because it makes your body and mind feel good.
Well, they're caffeine free except for the matcha. 1 gram of sugar that's not refined sugar. And it's just simple ingredients, and I don't know how they do it, but all of them taste amazing. Even the salted caramel, you think, oh, sugar, but there's like 1 gram per serving.
Interesting.
And there's 30 servings per bag. So there's really not a lot in there.
Right.
But it tastes so good. But so once you get past that fun section, we have kind of like your accessories. So you've got your
loofahs and things.
Oh yeah, we've got the loofahs. We've got I'm trying to think of the name of it. The linen and body sprays.
Yes.
Essential oil perfumes, which I will be starting to work on new ones. So always open to ideas for scents people would like to have as an essential oil perfume, because it helps my brain take a break for a bit.
Fair.
Then we have our witchy section and our candles, which I started doing the candles as one of the first things to take over. So a bunch of whipped soy, which apparently I can't do a regular candle. It has to look like food.
Sure, yeah.
And smell like food.
I like to be very confused with my products.
Oh yeah. I specifically put on the back, please do not eat. Because I've had a couple friends that are like, oh, I really would love to just eat this. Please don't do that.
Yeah, this is not what this is for.
No, it is not. But they look really nice. I have fun making them. It's a lot of work, but I enjoy it. And again, always open to take on another challenge for what they're going to look like.
Sure.
Which for Valentine's Day,
which is coming up.
Yes, I am coming out with a lot of products, especially candles. Was just kind of working on them this morning, so there'll be like a vanilla cupcake, so it'll look like cake with icing on top with the little hearts.
Cute.
Trying to
cute it up
a little bit, make it a little romantic, but not too mushy. And of course, there will be the ones you can buy stuff for yourself,
which I mostly do.
Love yourself. And bath bombs, of course, which can't forget about the bath bomb section.
My kid loves them.
Oh yeah,
she's obsessed. She will not have a bath anymore without a bath bomb, and she needs a shower steamer when she has a shower.
Oh, well, perfect, because I just made a whole bunch more.
Perfect.
And so with the bath bombs, because I'm making those now, I do have ones that I thought the kids would really enjoy, but adults can have fun too. So they're white, and on the inside there is a secret color. So it's a mystery bath bomb, so you don't know what the color is until you put it in the bath.
Okay.
And I don't even know now because I mixed them up. So just trying to keep like new ideas, make it fun, but because a lot of people come in, want to get something for their kids, and kids love bath bombs. Also keeping them all natural, and always new scents, scent combinations, because right now I'm finding that cotton candy rose is becoming the store scent.
Interesting.
I know I like rose, but it's a bit much for me, and then the sweetness, I'm like, the balance, I'm like, okay, this kind of works out. And now the candles I've made have sold out a couple times, so
wow.
I guess it's popular.
Get in there early for Valentine's Day then.
Oh yeah, because I usually do batches of 5 and then kind of rotate which candles I'm doing, because, well, the sinuses can only handle 1 scent for so long.
Absolutely.
But we do still have all the bar soaps.
Okay.
And Allegra is still making a lot of the products until I feel more comfortable.
Okay.
So she makes them and she'll ship them out to me. And once I feel a bit more comfortable with moving on to another product, it'll still be her recipes and stuff, and then just kind of slowly taking my time to not overwhelm my brain.
That's fair.
Because it's a lot.
Yeah.
And in such a short time, I've
taken on a lot.
Oh, a lot.
Absolutely.
It's been a little crazy, but, you know, caffeine and heavy metal seems to be doing the trick.
That's it. And when we come back to our next segment, we're going to talk about more of the small batch, the ingredients you use, and stuff like that, and more about our community.
Perfect.
So we'll see you back here in a minute.
All right, perfect.
Hey, it's Krista McKee here of Wandering Grey Bruce. I am so excited to bring to you the 5th season of the show. We're going to meet some very exciting and interesting people. Stay tuned. This season, we are going to Chantry Island, visiting southern Grey County to explore barn quilts, and we have an exclusive interview with the Coast Guard at Tobermory. So join me on Rogers TV.
Baking for Change is coming this fall, and I'm your host, Wendy Pauls. We'll feature some of Canada's best bakers like Jen and Astor, sharing their favorite recipes. And you can bake along with us at home, while supporting refugee youth like Crystal. And the amazing work of UNICEF Canada.
Check for days and times.
On Rogers TV.
Public transit, garbage pickup, parks and recreation programs, snow removal on your street. How can you stay informed about these and other important local services? Tune to City Council coverage on Rogers TV. See your community leaders at work on Rogers TV City Council coverage.
And we're back at My River District. I'm your host, Vivica Gavel, Community Development Coordinator for the City of Owen Sound in the River District, which is where you will find Tasha Tupper in her new store, Body Science. Body Science is not new, but the owner is new.
Yes. Body Science has been there for just over 2 years.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I feel like it's been a million years.
But I did just take over around end of August, and then now I'm full owner, name and all, for like the past month and a half, maybe. But
congratulations.
Thank you. So it's been a lot, but just really I've learned so much with learning how to make all the products and the natural ingredients, of course. So it's a lot of like the jojoba oil, the cast iron soap, just like
natural stuff.
Baking soda. I try to keep the ingredients list as short as possible.
Beautiful.
Because I do have very sensitive skin. So like eczema, psoriasis, so much fun. So I try to make sure that I try out everything I make first to make sure it doesn't bother me, because if it doesn't bother me, then it probably won't bother anybody else.
That's fair.
Which I'm my own guinea pig.
Perfect. So if we come in and you have a full head to toe rash, it means you've just tested something and it won't be hitting the shelves.
Yeah, exactly. And it's been a lot of learning, but I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
I love doing the research to figure out what might help people.
Yeah.
For any sort of skin issues, and what's not gonna,
So you have specific skin issue specific products?
Yes.
So for eczema, for example?
So for like something like eczema or psoriasis or extremely dry skin, usually general skin dryness issues, we have a bar soap that's seaweed and dead sea mud, so it's pH balancing. You can also use it as a shampoo bar, so if you have dandruff or just dry scalp, which,
life-changing.
Yeah, this time of year is just horrible for everybody. And I use it just daily, and I've noticed my skin's clearing up.
Okay.
Plus, we do have a hair tonic as well. So for hair growth, if you just have any general hair scalp issues, it's amazing.
Okay, so what kind of stuff do we find in that? Don't give me all your secrets.
I know.
But like,
that's actually still Allegra's top secret.
All right, all right.
We do have the ingredients list on it, but
Great.
Well, obviously I don't need to use it because I got too much of this. But
I mean, I'm not doing bad myself.
Oh yeah, you're doing fantastic. But we do have like things like a strengthening shampoo, hair and scalp shampoos, like more specific, like if you have scalp issues, if you've got extremely dry hands,
and all this is good for men and women.
Men, women, and I am working on a less floral, feminine scented things, just because even I'm not a huge fan of the super floral-y. I do like the musk is a nice.
I love a good musk.
Oh yeah. And it just keeping the scents kind of neutral.
Yeah.
So it's more earthy scents.
Sure.
A little, we go over to like I said, the cotton candy rose side, but we also go to like the nice deep earthy, like you got your frankincense and your patchoulis and
or some like cedar.
Oh, and of course cedar.
Yeah.
And then we got the sandalwood.
Right.
Just keeping it and of course you get your stuff that smells like cupcakes and candies and and then even trying to keep it it's not just for like adult women, or it's also kid friendly.
Yeah, which I think is really important.
Oh yeah, it's even just using high quality essential oils. If your kid accidentally eats it, because kids like to do those things.
Well, you're making them look like cupcakes and things.
I know. So it's not gonna hurt them.
Right.
Just don't overdo it. Moderation.
Well, and it likely won't taste good once they get a bite in.
It might smell like it will taste good, but one little slip and they're gonna go, no, it's
not food. And that's how I learned too.
Yeah. Me as well.
But you do have let's say men's section.
Yes, we do currently have a body wash for men. It's a honey bourbon.
I've smelled it. It smells so good. I would use that 100%.
Yeah, I have. We do have shave soap, like in like a little bar.
Yep.
Razors, the shave brush, like the little fluff brush for the soap.
Right. What is that even called?
I have no idea.
It's like a blush brush, but it's for men, and it's got a little stubby handle.
And you use it for the soap,
and you put it on the thing.
Yeah. We do have it's a linen room and body spray for men.
Okay.
Which has also got like a bourbon scent to it.
Okay.
And I keep trying to make more things that men will like. We do have bar soaps that are less floral and fruity.
Yeah, I mean, you said you have a very basic like olive oil soap.
Yes, so we do have one that is a 72% olive oil. So anyone if you're getting a gift as well, anything, if you think someone's gonna have a possible reaction to something, that's the go-to.
Right.
And then we have something like our pine one, which is antibacterial, antifungal. So
cool.
Oh yeah, it's my favorite. I use it all the time, along with the seaweed one.
Okay. As like a general hand soap, or like in the shower?
Oh, in the shower.
Oh, nice.
Because with eczema, psoriasis, any sort of bacteria, anything's gonna just drive it nuts.
Right, and it's not antibacterial like hand sanitizer antibacterial.
Oh no,
these are naturally occurring antibacterial properties.
Oh yeah,
and that's science.
Science. Hence body science.
Yeah. Hey, yay! But chink, we're out. Okay.
But yeah, it's just I've been just slowly learning how to do all of the different products and what ingredients will help with my skin, and anyone who comes in with a skin issue, that's the first thing. I have a notepad, just things to look into to make new products.
Okay.
Hoping to do the same thing when it comes to bath bombs for skin issues. I do have, I did make some detox bombs, so they do have like bentonite clay or charcoal, so a nice little detox. Keep it safe for the skin.
Interesting. So it's like a mix between like a bath tea and a bath bomb.
Yes. So it will fizz, and it is one you have to kind of rinse a little bit because clay will sink, but it will not stick. And I use them because my skin sucks.
Also bath bombs.
Yeah, bath bombs.
Because who doesn't like that? It just makes the bath really exciting.
I know. It's
you got your little boat. You got your bath bomb. The boat goes near the bath bomb. Anyways, I've got to stop playing with my kids' toys.
I don't even have kids, so I don't
you've
have
also
an
got a
excuse.
boat?
Of course.
A bath boat.
A bath boat.
Perfect.
Or rubber ducky, you know.
Whichever you prefer.
Exactly. But I have been coming out with more like bubble bars.
Okay.
And bubble cookies.
What is a bubble cookie?
So a bubble
Also, don't eat the bubble cookie.
Yeah, do not eat the bubble cookie. It will not taste good.
Perfect.
So the bubble cookie and the bubble bar is basically the same thing, except the bubble cookies look and smell like cookies.
Sure.
For whatever reason, I can't make stuff
It's
that doesn't look like food.
It's fun. People like it.
And so right now there's a cinnamon snap and a sugar cookie, and you just break off a chunk and then crumble it like under the running water when you're about to have a bath, and it just bubbles.
So it's bubble bath without all the water.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's just a more condensed version, so you don't have to use the whole thing.
Cool.
Oh, and they smell fantastic.
I'm in. Sign me up. Put that on my list.
Okay. I'm just send me a list. I'll just put stuff
fill
to
up
the
a cart.
side.
Yeah. It's fine.
Oh yeah.
Anyways.
Yes.
Back to bath boats.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're looking to expand the men's section, more neutral smelling stuff, in addition to the good selling, more floral stuff.
So even like candle wise, bath bombs, anything that I'm making in the store, I'm trying to keep it kind of general, like
I love that,
for everybody, because
and it's not to say that the manliest of men can't go for the cupcake, cotton candy, whatever it's called, scented.
Exactly.
Because you know what? That's fine too.
Oh yeah. Hey, and I like the earthy, musky smells myself, so you know what? It doesn't matter.
Oh my gosh, we've only got 2 minutes left.
Yes.
I cannot believe it. I want to talk so much more about the witchy section, but I think it's really important we tell people where to find you.
So I am located right beside Liberty Tax, behind Frog Pond, so it's 781 2nd Ave East.
Perfect, parking right out front.
Oh yeah, and very close to a lot of like big parking areas.
Absolutely. How do we find you on socials?
So on Facebook and Instagram, it's at Body Science OS. Keep it simple.
Love it.
And website is bodyscienceos.com.
Okay.
Keeping it simple.
Love it.
Making it easy, because
absolutely
I can only remember so many things.
So what are the hours that you are open?
So currently open Tuesdays to Thursdays, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Okay.
Fridays are 10 to 5. Saturdays 10 to 3. So I'm open at 10 every.
Just show up around 11, you're good to go.
Oh yeah. And if anyone does need like to come in outside of those hours, they are free to message me either on social media or shoot me an email, bodyscienceos@gmail.com, and I'm usually there.
Yeah, you're very responsive.
Yes, I am generally, even if the doors are locked, I'm there.
Perfect.
Just making stuff.
Excellent. So we've only got 1 minute left.
Okay.
And I want to ask you a very important question.
Yes.
Why do you, as a new local, love it here?
Well, it's the community. Ever since, like, I've only been here for just over a year, and my first time in the River District was like maybe a week after I moved, and every store I went into, I just felt like I found my people. Everyone was so friendly, and I just felt so comfortable. And I know. I just didn't leave.
That's right. Couldn't get rid of her, really.
No,
we tried.
I know. So hard.
Well, thank you so much for coming in. I will be back. Make sure to fill up my cart. I'll be there. I need to start a tab, really.
Yes.
But here's your official Locals Love It Here badge. Please wear it with honor.
Oh, I'm going to put that on right now.
Perfect.
And try not to stab myself.
That's always the game. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back, and I can't wait to see where my River District takes us in 2024.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
With clubs, leagues, and courts in every province and territory across Canada, squash is the sport for wall-to-wall fun, fitness, and friendship. From coast to coast to coast. Learn to play, and you'll want to do it every day. Squash. Play inside the box.
Hi, can I take your order? Hello?
Oh, hey. Wait, what was the question?
Let me guess. One driving high combo, extra baked?
No. Could I get a burger with a side of fries?
Think you're a better driver when you're high? Think again. Smoking weed affects reaction time and concentration. A message from Mad Canada.
You're watching Rogers TV.
Welcome to Grey County Life. I'm JC Coots.
I'm Sarah Carmichael. Joining us on the program today, we will have Janet Juniper talking about the upcoming Bayshore Bridal Show. We'll also be talking to the cast of The Ladies Foursome, which is the latest production to be gracing the stage at the Roxy. And Renee will be joining us from the Owen Sound Animal Shelter, and we will be meeting an animal or animals that are looking for a forever home. So it's going to be a great show. How are things?
Things are good. They've been busy. I find myself living at the rink a lot lately.
Yes.
Between, of course, the Owen Sound Attack games, the Meaford Knights games. My niece Rachel also plays hockey, and last weekend we got to actually see her play in Owen Sound. She plays U9 for the Lucknow 86ers, and they had a game.
Go 86ers.
They had a game against the Ice Hawks, which was amazing to watch her skate on the big ice at the Bayshore. But after the game, I said, "Did you know that the team you played are in your book, Rosie the Hockey Player, because that's all about the Ice Hawks?" And she goes, "I had no idea. We played the team from the book." So she was very excited, and she loves the books, by the way. Jenna, we had on the show a few weeks ago talking about Rosie the Hockey Player. If you missed that episode, please go and watch it on the Rogers TV website, and it's just such a great book series. She's already read all 3 of the books that are out.
Oh, wow.
And she's very excited for book number 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. There's 3 of what will be 6 books available on Amazon, also at Hometown Sports, and a few other places in town. And of course, you can, check out Rosie the Hockey Player on Instagram. She's got a website. The books were written by a local author, Jenna McCoubry-Prestige, and it's been doing really well for her, so that's awesome. But I'm so glad that Rachel's a fan. I knew she would be. I knew she would be, but that's great.
Yeah, how about you? What have you been up to lately?
Oh, goodness. Well, same thing, working with the Owen Sound Attack. Of course, they just played London on Saturday night. What a game.
Oh, yeah.
Very busy, always is, because there's such a rivalry between the two teams. It's funny because I lived in London for a number of years, but being from Owen Sound, I've obviously been cheering for the Platers and then the Attack. And anytime there would be a game in London where the Attack would be coming to town, I would purposefully wear my Owen Sound Attack shirt around town the whole day. And I remember I worked for a radio station there, and I remember walking into the lobby of the building. We were on like the second floor and walking towards the elevator, and the security guard like basically approached me and said, "I feel like I should walk you to the office." Just in case. I'm like, really? Like, do you think anyone's gonna? I'm like, I'm okay with a little chirping. Like, that's why I do it, right? But at the same time, I'm like, I don't think I'm actually in physical danger. Like, I think I'm okay. But I used to always get a big kick out of it. And actually, we were talking, Lucas, the co-op student, the intern. He said, you know, he has the same sort of affliction because his family's from Owen Sound, but he's grown up in Kitchener. So he's like, who do I cheer for? The Rangers or the Attack? Like, who am I supposed to cheer for? And I was like, I guess it depends on where you are. Like, if you're in Kitchener, you cheer for the Rangers, but if you're here in Owen Sound, you cheer for the Attack. But yeah, it was a good game, always a good game between the Knights and the Attack, and it was really good to see so many people out supporting the boys, because you know they ultimately they really feed off the energy from the crowd.
Yes,
it's very, very obvious, but we're lucky to have the team. And of course, you know, you can always visit their website, attackhockey.com, if you want to find out more about the shows, or not the shows, about the games and all the stuff they have going on. Actually, they just were doing a fundraiser with Grace as well at Eastside Mario's. Right. So they're heavily involved, and they last Friday they did the skate with the kids at the Wyerton Arena as part of the prediction morning. The Attack were there from 9:30 to 10:30 on the Friday, skating with the kids and doing the autographs, which is cool. So that's really what I've been doing. I've been working. I've been walking my dogs. It's getting a little bit easier now because the temperature is kind of letting up a little bit, and it's not as cold, but it's mucky.
Yeah, it's the worst time of the year for that, isn't it?
And there's so much salt. What is going on? Like, I'm not a complainer, but we really need to ease back on the salt use on the sidewalks, because there's certain spots that it looks like they literally just took a bucket and dumped it, and it's unnecessary. And it's like, if you've got dogs and you're trying to walk your dogs and they get it up in their paw pads, and like it's such a painful thing.
Yeah.
So that's been something that's been a little challenging. We've been walking on the road a lot.
Oh, really?
Well, I mean, I live in a residential area, and obviously I'm not walking like in front of cars. And I mean, I walk my dogs at like 5 in the morning, and so I will choose to walk on the road as opposed to the sidewalk, because there's not the salt. So that's been really it. I've just been working, walking dogs, and yeah. It's February, you know?
February.
What do you do in February? You are waiting for spring. That's basically what you do in February. You just wait for the springtime.
Yeah, and we got an extra day of February this year too, because it's a leap year.
I know, February 29th is a thing. So
anybody born on that day actually gets to celebrate their real birthday, right? Do you know any leap year babies?
I don't think so. I don't think so, but I think about Modern Family. And Cam, the character Cam, had a leap year birthday, and I remember the husband was trying to plan a birthday for him, but like it was actually only like his 4th birthday because of the leap year. So he was trying to plan this like grown-up birthday, but he didn't want a grown-up birthday. He wanted like a 4th birthday, so they ended up going to like a carnival and stuff, and they had a great time. But anytime I think about leap year birthdays, that's what I think about is Modern Family. But yeah, no, it's been busy. There's lots of stuff going on around town. Owen Sound Frolics is on right now.
Oh yeah.
That just started February 1st, which is an opportunity for you to visit areas of the city that maybe you've never been to, or areas that you wouldn't normally go to. You go on to the Owen Sound Tourism Facebook page and the Instagram, and you look for the clues, and you follow the clues to the location. You find the Frolic sign, you take a picture with it. You could win prizes each day, I think. They have daily or weekly prizes. And then if you go to all of the locations over the course of the month, you go into the grand prize draw. And I think there's 2 grand prizes worth like $500 each.
Wow.
So good experience, you know, to do some problem solving with the riddles with the kids. Good excuse to get outside and, as I said, see places that you maybe have never been to.
All right. Well, good on the city for once again hosting Owen Sound Frolics, owensound.ca for more info. Busy show today. We've got coming up in just a few moments. We're going to be chatting with 3/4 of the cast of the Ladies Foursome and director Bill Murphy. They're going to be here in just a few. Also, Janet Juniper will be here as well, talking about the Bayshore Bridal Show that's coming up later this month. And Renee's going to be here with some potentially more than one animal. We'll have to wait and see. That's all coming up this week on Grey County Life. Stay tuned.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
I did it. I need it.
Here, I gave it.
And I am alive.
As an organ donor, you can save up to 8 lives and enhance the lives of 75 others. Please go to our website. Pledge a gift of life. You'll be glad you did.
It's closing time, and you stayed out longer than you planned. So now you can't drive, and the buses have stopped running. You could always call your girlfriend. Or maybe your roommate? What about your best friend? You could just dial 1-888-TAXI-GUY or use the Taxi Guy app. The call and the app are free, and they both connect you to a local cab company to bring you home safely. Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive, drive sober.
I'm number 24, Tays Jordan.
And number 21, Harry Nancy.
Tune in to Attack Rap
on Rogers TV.
And welcome back to Grey County Life. We've got quite a few guests in the studio now. Most of the cast of the Ladies Force and the next production coming to the Roxy Theatre are here. We've got Sandy, we've got Shirley, we've got Donna, and we've got the director, Bill Murphy. Hi, folks. How are you doing?
Good. Great.
Very well,
Thank you.
thanks, JC and Sarah. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, I know it's going to be a very busy week because it's opening week for the play this week. Thursday night it opens at the Roxy. You're going to do 8 shows during the course of the run.
Yeah.
So you've only got 8 chances to go and see this play. Let's talk about the play. What is the Ladies Foursome about?
You're all looking at me.
Our director.
Well, it's set on a golf course, and 4 ladies have golfed together for 14 years, and one of them has recently passed away in somewhat unusual circumstances. She's hit by lightning while she's on top of a Ferris wheel. And anyway, it's the day after her funeral, and they have invited a woman named Doris, who is Shirley's character, who runs a resort that the deceased used to visit every year for 12 years, and they've become friends. And during the course of the game, they find out a lot about each other and about their friends, and they discuss life and philosophy and, you know, is there a plan to life? And they discuss their sex lives and just about everything else under the sun. It's quite a revealing session, shall we say. They find out lots about themselves and their friends they didn't necessarily know. And it's a very funny show, but with some serious undertones as well. So it's... and you get to see them play an entire golf game. There are 19 scenes, so 18 holes, and then a wrap up at the end after the game is over.
Wow. Wow.
So,
now, I know that in preparation, you have been practicing your golf swings. I've seen that you've gone to the golf simulator.
That's right.
And have any of you actually golfed before?
We all have golf.
Okay, perfect.
Different levels. I play at golf.
Okay.
I will never be a great golfer, just like my character, but I enjoy golf. I enjoy the social side of golf, just like Margot does. She enjoys the social side of golf. She's not there to win. She's just there to have a good time.
She's just happy to be there.
She is, yes. Yeah.
That's awesome. It looks like there has been a lot of work put in. How long have you been working on the play? Like, when did you start rehearsals?
Well, first of all, I wanted to mention that myself and Donna, we're members at Legacy Ridge. I've been a member there, and Legacy Ridge is sponsoring, one of the sponsors of the show. And so I've played there for quite a while. And we started, I think the auditions were in October, which sounds kind of early, but we've got Christmas, New Year's, bad weather, all of those things coming into effect. But we've been working hard at it for quite a while now.
And it's a very small cast. This represents 3/4 of the cast. There is, of course, a fourth, and that's it. There's just the four ladies in the cast. Is it difficult to work in a cast that small? Because that means you're pretty much on stage the entire time.
Well, we are on stage all the time, and with very few exceptions. But these ladies, we've all worked together in some capacity before, so it's just a wonderful, ensemble to be with friends. We've had lots of laughs, and we work together really well. And of course, the line load is very heavy, so we're busy memorizing everything that we have to say and do, because you have to also memorize when you go up to hit the ball, when you tee up. It's a definite time. It's not just sort of, random hit the ball. Everyone's counting on a certain sequence, so lots of challenges.
You change 18 times, so 18 set changes, 18 times where they have to park their golf carts in just the right location to allow the blocking and movement to work out. There's lots of little tweaking of that. We had no idea how much space a golf cart took up on the stage. It was hilarious. And I mean,
they're like characters almost themselves, the golf carts.
Yeah. And do we push it on or pull it on? What's more effective for that scene? Lots of things that the audience would never see in rehearsal that you have to work out for the show to work well. But you're right, tremendous load line for all four of the women. They've been working so hard at it, and it's tricky, really tricky. So.
And you mentioned about you've got the golf pull carts that are out there. Are you teeing up actual balls on the stage? And then no, you don't have to tee up an actual ball.
That could be really interesting.
That could be really interesting, yeah.
Amy, which one am I going to take out tonight?
That's right. We're just firing plastic practice balls into the audience every week.
Hopefully it will appear that we are actually hitting a real golf ball, but that will be left to the imagination of the theater goer.
Well, I think you do a wonderful job, and our sound man, of course, makes a ball sound every time that the ladies drive. So, I mean, he's got 72 sound cues alone right there. So it's a very busy time for him. And he's also found some obscure golf songs, shall we say. Bing Crosby golf song, and to me, I had no idea there were so many golf songs out there.
No,
but it's a busy show that way.
Sorry, Bill, you mentioned the sound guy, and the crew is always amazing when it comes to Roxy Productions, and just the last few that I've seen, the adding in different lighting elements, different special effects, the sounds, of course, which all have to come together. So, yeah, it's tough for the cast that's out there. They have to do a lot, but the crew is just exceptional every performance, it seems.
Yeah, Rick Twining is our sound man, and he's been a very busy boy and will be during the show. So it's the crew works hard, such attention to detail, and there's a ball washer on stage and a garbage can. You have to change the garbage all the time because it can't be the same on any two holes. So there are a million little details that they focused on so beautifully, and everybody in the crew works hard and trying to make scene changes efficient. 18 scene changes is a lot, and they've got to be fast and clean, and you can't. Even though the stage set is very simple, there's still a lot to do to make it work. So we have an amazing crew, and I always say that what people see on the stage is really only the tip of the iceberg. They don't see the hundreds of hours that the cast and the crew have put in to prepare everything. It's quite amazing. And as you well know from Cuckoo's Nest.
It is a lot of work and a lot of rehearsals, and even if you have a small part, it's still a lot of rehearsals and a lot of commitment. So it's incredible, and it helps too that it's an incredible group of people that are a part of the Roxy, not just this show, but the other shows who make up everything. The members of the little theater who are just so talented at what they do. And we don't have any rookies here in this cast either.
No.
I'll start with Sandy. Tell us about some of your previous plays that maybe we might have seen.
I'll go way back. First time I hit the boards was when I was 4. I was a dancer, and then that morphed into acting and singing. I started at the Roxy in 2006 and I've worked with both Shirley and Donna. And probably the highlight was a musical called Anything Goes, where we had a 9-minute tap number that we had to do. And I think that was probably one of the highlights of being at the theater. But I'd say 18 years with the Owen Sound Little Theater, and probably 25 productions either on stage or backstage. So everybody, that's the thing about the theater group, is we all take on different roles. We're not all about being out on the stage. It's all about supporting what's being performed every year. So yeah, so lots of years of theater.
And Shirley, any plays that folks in Owen Sound might have seen you in before at the Roxy?
Oh, well, I've been a member since 1978. You do the math. I was thinking, the first thing I ever did with the Owen Sound Little Theatre, I painted the brick wall for the what was you direct? You were
Glass Menagerie?
The Glass Menagerie. I painted the brick wall, and I got hooked, and somebody called me and tried to do that, see what it was like, and have just been involved ever since, and have been in several productions on stage, and I've directed 5 productions as well.
Wow.
I just want to, sorry,
I was going to say the Odd Couple was one that people might know because Fred Wallace was in it, and it was a great production, wonderfully successful, that Shirley directed.
It was the 50th anniversary of the Owen Sound Little Theatre, and I remember thinking, we need a classic comedy, a great comedy, and the Odd Couple, nobody seemed to be interested. So I thought, well, I'll direct it. And then somebody said, oh, wouldn't it be funny if Fred Wallace was Oscar Madison? So I didn't know Fred. I heard him on the radio. He didn't know me. I would call in badminton scores because I coached badminton at West Hill. And he said, oh, and there's a long story behind that. But ended up, we had waiting lists to see the show.
Well, as somebody that used to be Fred's manager, I hope that he was a little easier to direct than he was for me.
No, I think it was like Fred had a photographic memory, and he exceeded our expectations. It really did.
And of course, Bill was his sidekick.
I was Felix.
And so we're so happy to have somebody good opposite Fred. You know, a great. Bill, with his comedic ability, played opposite, so it was a great combination.
Yeah, Fred does strike me as the perfect Oscar.
He's a terrific actor.
No, not at all.
It was a great
We'd like to have Fred on stage more often, but he's a busy lad.
Well, I think he's got some more free time these days, but maybe not much.
You would think, but no.
No, he's still busy.
Still a busy boy.
And Shirley, how about
Donna?
Sorry, Donna. Well, I guess I first became a member in the 80s and did a few musicals and shows, non-musical as well, and took a break when I had family, and then got back into it in a popular musical in 2001, Oklahoma. And I was Adu Annie in Oklahoma, and that started my second wave of shows, and I love a musical. So I've done many musicals. I did the tap dancing and Anything Goes, and I was in Brigadoon, and Sandy and I got to be the sisters in White Christmas a few years ago. I was in Shirley's Les Belles Sœurs,
Les Belles Sœurs, right,
Les Mis, Sound of Music. I got to have dual roles. I was a nun, and then I was the
Baroness.
The Baroness. Yeah, so I got to do dual roles in that, and I guess my last show was Sister Act, and then this show just had all the comedy and the fun, and it just tempted me to come back out and try my luck at it.
Amazing.
So it's been great fun.
And Bill, I think you pretty much just live at the Roxy.
There are times when it feels like that, JC. Yes.
I know I saw you quite a bit during Cuckoo's Nest. I saw you and You, Me, and a bit of Driftwood, which you were fantastic in that one.
You. Yeah.
And how many plays have you directed now at this point?
Oh man, I should tally it up sometime. I couldn't tell you.
Wow.
It's in the
Archives.
12 to 20, probably somewhere in there.
Oh.
And I mean, I've been a member since 1948. Yeah, I've been a member since. No, I've been a member for 48 years. I joined in '75. I knew Shirley was coming, so I wanted to get in there ahead of time. But no, I love the community, and I do a lot of lighting when I'm not on stage, and done a fair bit of acting over the years. But I'm sort of settled into directing at this stage in my life, and I just love the OSLT community. You know what you're saying. Everybody works so hard and gets along well, and we're so proud of our home, the Roxy, and all the things we can do there. And I mean, the dream for OSLT back in the 60s was to own their own home. And we've realized that now with the unintended consequences of having a business to run. So we have a great staff who keep things percolating along, and wonderful board, and just a tremendous community at OSLT. So we have a lot of fun, work hard, feel very, very good about our shows. We feel we really do a professional job, and everybody works hard in their roles to keep that level up, you know, and that's exciting for us. And we've had a very supportive community here over the years from Owen Sound and area.
And lots of new people always joining on board, whether it's volunteering, ushering, or at the bar or on stage. We're always meeting new friends and new people. So.
And the musical that's on in April, Something Rotten, musicals always draw all kinds of new people as well. So there are probably half a dozen new members in that show too. So we're constantly looking for talented people and people who want to work hard and who fit in with us. And we're a very welcoming group, I think.
That's awesome.
I agree with that, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's probably familiar faces for you as well from being a teacher for so many years. And then I'm sure that you have, you know, students that you've taught that have come in and been in productions and joined the volunteer, you know, crew as well. And
yeah, that happens a lot.
That's kind of one of the nice things about, you know, doing your theater in a community that you're from and you're so familiar with.
Yeah, no, it's been a great life here for me, and OSLT has been very special in my life. And all these wonderful people I get to work with.
Right,
I mean, we have a lot of fun, and people really care about each other. And no, it's wonderful, and it's a treat to work on such a good production with such experienced actresses and have such good material, and I'm sure people will be just laughing hard in their seats. So
Norm Foster's well known at Owen Sound. People like Norm Foster plays. They know they're going to be funny.
Yeah.
And so 8 shows in the total run, including there's a matinee run.
There's a matinee on February the 11th, the Sunday afternoon, for which tickets are going very quickly. So if you're interested in the matinee, then now's the time to get your tickets. But all the other shows, seats, the evenings are going well, tickets are selling well, and it will be a real laugh riot, I think. So it'll be a lot of fun.
We need an audience right now to help us with all our fun laugh lines and get our
it's totally true. A lot, you know, like you feed off the audience, right? When you're on stage, you know, just like a band when they, you know, or like even the Owen Sound Attack, they really feed off the cheers from the audience. So it's very much the same with theater, you know, with those laughs, and you know, you're like, okay, it's almost like, you know, reaffirming that, you know, you're getting those lines right and you're really hitting your times and stuff, and if you get those laughs.
Yeah.
So it again opens this week, Thursday night, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, with shows at 7 or 7:30?
7:30.
7:30 at the Roxy.
At the Roxy Theater. And then we start up on the Wednesday the following week, which would be the 14th.
Yeah,
and then
Valentine's.
Yeah, that's right.
There you go.
Oh, there you go.
Valentine's Day.
And through to
dinner
Saturday.
and a show.
Yes.
And just because it is women, I mean, it's not a show that is only women will enjoy or only golfers will enjoy. Everyone will enjoy this. So grab a date, your husband, your family, your friend, whatever.
What a perfect way to celebrate.
Yeah, that's right.
Valentine's Day is come to the theater.
All right. Well, I know that myself and some of my fellow cuckoos are going to be going on Super Bowl Sunday to support you guys. So we're very excited to see it. Can't wait. RoxyTheater.ca is where people can go to get tickets. That's also where you can go to if you are listening to this or watching this and we're curious, maybe you wanted to join the Roxy, whether it's on stage or behind the scenes in any capacity. You can find information there, upcoming auditions, all of that. at roxytheatre.ca. Bill, Donna, Shirley, Sandy, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you, JC and Sarah. And
Thanks, Sarah.
hope you get to see our show and enjoy. Well, you're already coming, got your tickets, so.
We will be there. Break a leg, as they say, everybody.
Thanks, JC.
4.
Stay tuned. We've got more coming up on Grey County Life.
I was born and raised in Musqueam First Nation territory by my mother, who spoke Hunkaminam to me. As a child, I ceased using my mother tongue, as to use any language other than English was considered not being Canadian, so I was told. The old people came to me in a dream and reminded me of who I am and where I come from. I have reawakened. My roots are strong, and I'm no longer a silent speaker. My language tells me where I'm from. It defines me and guides me to teach others to learn and understand our culture and traditions. A gift for those in the present and the unborn generations. What was lost is found. What was asleep has awakened. My blood is here, and I am complete. I have returned home.
Hi, I'm Tiffany James, the host of Her Story. Join us on Rogers TV as I interview various women in our community on how they found success in their own way.
You're watching an interesting local show on Rogers TV and you want to know more. That's when you head to rogerstv.com. Our website provides more information about our programs, our hosts, our schedule, and about how you too can get involved with Rogers TV. Visit us online at rogerstv.com.
Welcome back to Grey County Life. Joining us in studio to talk about the upcoming Bayshore Broadcasting Bridal Show, Janet Juniper. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Great.
Busy.
It is busy, but that's a good thing.
The countdown is on. So
Yes.
the bridal show is just a few weeks away.
Yeah, February 24th.
And this is happening at the Bayshore here in Owen Sound.
Yes, the Bayshore Community Center. Yes.
How many years has this been going on?
I've been involved for over 23. In COVID, we went up to an online version, but we still kept it going. But when I started, it was happening, and I helped, and then helped with somebody else, and then took it over, and yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is the place, if anybody is getting married, thinking about getting married, know someone that's getting married, you have to go to this show because it's got everything you could possibly need to do with a wedding.
Yeah, there's over 50 amazing wedding professionals to answer all their questions. And even if you just want to have a party or a renewal or an anniversary, like, it doesn't have to be a bridal, but I mean, obviously that's, the gist of the bridal show, but it is, anybody is welcome to come in that day. It's $5 at the door, so it's very reasonable. And like I said, there's over 50 great professionals to talk to, so.
What types of professionals, like when it comes to the vendors?
Yeah.
Who can they expect to see?
Yeah, so it's actually interesting because I have a couple unique new vendors this year. I always get excited when I have something new and different. Right. I mean, all the vendors are amazing, but I mean, I have the venues, I have the caterers, disc jockeys, photographers, flowers, dresses, transportation services, porta potties, because there's a lot of outdoor venues and that. But this year I actually have, I've had photo booths before, but this year there's a 360 photo booth, which is actually almost like a video. And funny, I just saw a breakfast television show that was talking about trends and that in weddings, and they had this on there too. So you actually stand in the middle and this camera goes around.
I've seen that at like red carpets.
Yes.
Like when they have like celebrities come down the red carpet, there's this guy and he has like a ponytail. It seems to be the same guy that does them on
and
the
that's
red
what they said. It's in New York and it's in big places, and now it's here.
Have them stand there and then like do some sort of a movement, and it like whips around them.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's really
I didn't realize
neat.
we had one of those in the area.
Yeah. So that's something new. And then I have a new lady who is actually new to Canada, and she's a very talented seamstress.
Oh, wow.
And she makes homemade lingerie as well.
Okay.
So something really different.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, all the vendors are amazing. And this year I have some financial and investment too, which doesn't seem as glamorous as, you know, the cakes and the dresses and the flowers, but it's really something that everybody getting married should be looking at, you know, because you should be planning, you know, ahead for your future and that, not just all the day of and that.
Yeah,
so.
and plus, I mean, the money that you spend on the actual wedding, you got to keep that in mind.
Yes.
It's good to have that. And then even, you know, generally speaking, when you have a wedding, you will receive money as gifts. So it's good to be talking to professionals about what to do with that money.
Exactly.
Once you've opened all the envelopes and you've sent out the thank you cards and you've got your stack of cash, you know, if you're going to put it towards a house or if you're going to put it towards your honeymoon or invest it, that's actually really smart.
No, it is, and it's a smart place for them to be. So, a real variety, lots of samples and stuff at the show. And
will there be dresses for people to like actually try on?
Not
or
to
is
try on.
Okay.
There's actually 3 different bridal houses in the show.
Okay.
I used to do a fashion show, but it's just because we can't do it all day. It was a limited, and then people would come and go, and so they're always welcome to go to, you know, their places. But they always have some on display and answer the questions and that as well. So yeah, but there's not actually dresses to try on so much. So
interesting. Interesting. Now, caterers, will there be samples?
There are. There's lots of lots of samples. Everyone loves that, and the cake. You know, the little cakes and the different lots of sweets, and lots of vendors have stuff in their booth for people to try to entice them in and that as well. The brides do get a swag bag when they come in as well. And there is pre-registration available for the brides. They don't have to, or for anybody getting married, they don't have to pre-register. It just speeds things up when they come, because we do ask them to fill out a form. So if it's already done online, then they can do that in advance and then just come and pay their money and go in with their entourage, or
I was about to say their bride tribe.
Yeah. Well, and it's changed a lot as well, because sometimes there'll just be parents come because their children can't come, or they're working or something, or somebody that's a friend of, you know, so it's changed from just the couple that we're, you know, that we get some different people in, and so.
The more the merrier.
Exactly, and like I said, it is open to every single person, so.
Yeah, I like the fact that you brought up, you know, vow renewal. That is something that I know quite a few couples have done. And so you might be looking for a venue for that. You might be, you know, even just doing it in your backyard, but you want a caterer to come in and have a meal.
Right, we have officiants there. We have, you know, there's everything really bridal, teeth whitening, you know, just,
Who doesn't
you know,
want to have a pearly white smile on their special day, right?
Everybody.
It makes sense.
You know, that's the day you want to look your best, you know.
Right.
This says, maybe just to give somebody an idea, but if somebody's planning, they're not getting married, but they just want to have a really kick-ass backyard party, they should probably go to this, and you'll get to find the caterers and everything you need.
Yeah, there's an amazing group of caterers, and just like you said, even the, you know, the photo booths or photographer for that, or, you know, party favors, or, you know, food is always, because there's some barbecue pit type places this year too, like a real variety from, you know, very formal venues and occasions to some barn venues and stuff like a real variety, really, to suit any wedding, you know.
Yeah. My brother got married, I think just outside of Owen Sound. This was a long time. It was like 10, 12 years ago. But they had the ceremony outside, and then the reception was in like a barn, like a refurbished, fancy barn, and it was perfect for them, you know, size-wise, and it's awesome, like how many options people have nowadays. It's not just, okay, you're going to, you know, a banquet hall, this is it. Like there's so many different options and ideas for people, and that's really what this is about, right? Getting those ideas. And I mean, some people may have just gotten engaged, say over Christmas, over New Year's,
or Valentine's Day,
or Valentine's Day next week. There might be some people popping the question for sure, and this is a great sort of starting off point, because I know, like, I've never planned a wedding, but I do know that there's a lot of work and details, and I personally would trust the professionals. So I would be going and seeking their professional guidance, and this is a great place to start with that.
Right. And I think that's what's nice about going to a bigger bridal show, that there are a lot of different, because you know, then you don't have to chase all these different, you can actually ask questions and do stuff. And I think the biggest thing that's really changed that I've seen since, you know, before it was, you know, the fancy dress and the cake and all that, is now weddings are as individuals of people. There's no right or wrong, or no real, this is the trend right now and this has to be. I think, like you said, anywhere from a backyard to a fancy venue to a charcuterie board to a full course meal. Cakes, some people don't do cakes anymore. Some do cupcakes or just a dessert bar. Like, weddings have just changed so much that, you know, it's about the individual now, the couple, not about the, you know, traditions, and that, I think, is what I've noticed the biggest change.
I would like to get married on the Chichimon.
Oh, we had a Christmas party there once.
I wonder
before,
if there would be an opportunity to have that as a venue. I mean,
you'd have to in the winter, probably.
Well, no, I would want it in the summer when it's like making the crossing. Like I would want everybody who was just trying to get to Manitoulin that day to be a guest at my wedding, like impromptu.
You could just have an officiant there with you. And
it's possible, right? It's just right there on the
improv.
top deck. The Adirondack chairs are there, and we have a little wedding. I think that would be so
impromptu wedding.
I take it that the Chichimon isn't going to be there as a wedding venue at the wedding show.
No, I would.
Now they're going to have Sarah's picture on the wall.
Watch for this woman. If she arrives wearing a white dress, tell someone. That's so funny. But yeah, no, it could be something like that. Like it said, as you said, it's completely up to the individual how they plan. Now, your wedding was on the farm.
That's right. We unfortunately didn't have the wedding show to go to, which would have probably taken a lot of stress out of the planning. And it also was added stress because I wasn't actually in Ontario during the planning of it. I was already out west. My wife was still here. So a lot of it was, I think, done by Pinterest, and there were some ideas that came out of it. It ended up being non-traditional as well, just an outdoor gathering. We had a picnic. Everybody got a picnic basket with their meal in it, and it was very small. It was under 100 people. If I had been allowed to have more, you were on the list, unfortunately.
You didn't know me then.
I didn't make the cut.
Yes, you were. You didn't make the cut this time. My wife had to bring her 80 friends. Yeah. But
your vow renewal, though.
The vow renewal. Yes. Now that is giving me an idea, because we're going to be coming up on 15 in a couple of years, and so. As mentioned, this is a great place at the wedding show to go and find out information, meet officiants, and the type.
Well, a lot of people didn't have, maybe because of financial or logistics or whatever, have a big wedding. So vow renewals, I think, are neat, or even anniversaries, or because then you can do things. So, you know, that's a great idea.
That's cute. So. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Something we introduced to one. So we had all the categories on there, so you just go on and you can go to check out all, you go under venues, everybody that has a venue is listed, and different categories. And then we decided after COVID, when we were back to doing the live show, that we would keep that website, and then you can go pre-register on there. You can find out information. You can find out, you know, how to contact me if you want to be a vendor. You can find out, you know, but you can go there all year. So if you're at the show and it's like, oh, is that person I was talking to? Then you can go on there and get and it links to all their sites, has information. But you can also, if you can't get to the show, you can go and check out all the vendors and that as well. So, so that's a great online thing that we have now as well.
Yeah.
So.
Has anybody ever, because you mentioned that it's been about 23 years now that the bridal show's been running. Has anybody ever added up all the weddings that have happened as a result of the show? Because that's got to be in the hundreds, if not over 1,000 at this point.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I think one year something that was really, really unique, a gentleman phoned the radio station and asked if he could buy a ticket in advance. And I said, well, there's not really tickets, you just pay when you come in. And I said, I'm just curious why. And he said that his girlfriend, like many, was bugging him about getting married. And he wanted to surprise her at Christmas. And so he was going to wrap up a ticket for the show. And then, and I'm sure you'll understand this a little more than JC might, that she would open it and say, why do I want a ticket to the show?
I'm not even engaged yet.
Yeah. And so then he was going to, that's how he was doing the proposal.
While she was like mad. He's like on one knee. You're like,
but I said, we don't have tickets, but we will make you a ticket.
I think I remember you doing that.
And then we will not charge her or her on her, because we just thought that was so amazing that
the
he was
proposal.
he was using the Bayshore Bridal Show for his proposal. So,
I love that.
So that was a really unique story.
Yeah. How did you propose to your wife? I don't think I know the story.
So it was, it would have been a year to the day after we started dating. And I, at the time, was living in Yellowknife, and she was at Teachers College in Kitchener. So I told her,
a little distance.
I can't remember what I said I was doing, but I said I won't be available tonight because we're going out with the boys to watch the hockey game or something, which she did not buy that. She's like, I think you might be flying home. And sure enough, I did. I flew home and took the red-eye flight from Yellowknife, arrived at 6 a.m. in Toronto, drove to Kitchener, and at 8 a.m. I was on her doorstep with the ring out like that.
Sweet.
And,
Isn't that nice?
and she said yes. So
imagine she said no.
yeah, that's like, I guess, can I get a ride to the airport?
You just spent how much money on a flight and all night long flying? And she'd be like, actually, I had something to tell you. I'd been wanting to talk to you about it.
Well, speaking of engagements, good segue, Sarah. Something new at the show this year as well. And this is something that's on for the month of February, the Mix 106.5 Love Story Engagement contest is on. So people can nominate somebody for their engagement story, nominate a couple, moms, friends, anybody. And then March 1st, I believe it is, we're drawing, and they're getting different prizes from 10 different vendors, around $3,000 towards their wedding. And so somebody will nominate them, and we'll have the stuff at the bridal show as well. It'll be on the websites and that, but then we'll have it at the bridal show as well. And there's QR codes and go on and do stuff. So just something different. And
so someone has like an extra special or unique sort of story.
Yes. Yeah. And there's lots of them out there, just like that one.
Yeah.
You know, some people are really creative when it comes to the engagement.
and how do people enter again for that? Is that just at mix1065.ca?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It is. Yeah, and they can at the bridal show as well, because we'll obviously have a booth there for the good tie-in and that too. So
that's awesome. You should enter. Or actually be nominated. You have to be nominated.
I have to be nominated. So.
You can put, I guess, it towards your renewal.
Yeah,
yes,
that's right. What I mean. Like, use the stuff to go towards your renewal.
So there's money towards a cake, towards an officiant, towards a DJ, towards a gown, towards a venue. There's, so it's, it's pretty unique.
Little wedding
jewelry.
starter package. It's perfect.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know that there's a lot of people looking forward to it. I was just talking to a friend of mine. She just got engaged in December, and I saw her at the Alzheimer's Society fundraiser that we were just at, actually in the same room that is the bridal show is going to be in. And I said, how's things going? How's the planning? And she was like, basically like, I'm kind of lost. She's like, but I'm going to the bridal show. So I'm looking forward to getting some guidance because, you know, if you've never planned a wedding or had friends or family that have planned a wedding, you might not have had that experience. Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of like, where do I start? Yeah. And it can be intimidating. So having a bridal show and having everybody in the same room, one-stop shop is really helpful.
And even walking around seeing some of the things, you might already have a lot of your stuff planned, or you might have nothing planned, but you look at something and it's like, wow, I never thought of that, or why don't we do that?
Yeah.
So,
absolutely. It'll be a great opportunity for people to learn all their options and to actually book people. Like they'll be able to actually book people there at the event.
And there is a cash lunch booth there this year as well. So if you are planning on spending a bit of time, there's a great lunch booth. So $5 cash to get in, cash lunch booth. And like I said, lots of samples, lots of professionals.
It's going to be a lovely day of love. And that is, of course, Saturday, February 24th at the Bayshore Community Center.
From 10 till 3.
And if people want to register ahead of time?
BayshoreBridal.ca.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for the information.
Thank you guys. That was amazing.
Looking forward to the bridal show, absolutely. And looking forward to seeing Renee from the Owen Sound Animal Shelter, who's going to be joining us next on Grey County Life.
Are you the type who would keep going or stop? It's not easy to stop when you have an addiction. Legalizing cannabis won't stop addiction. It trivializes its consumption. Let's be vigilant. If you need help, visit portage.ca.
Our family used to be so fun. Now my brother takes care of me. I miss Mom and Dad being around more. Mom says things are going to get better.
Welcome to Central Westside United Church.
Join us on the next episode of Grey County Life. We'll be joined by Owen Sound attack photographers Sam and Allie.
Also, of course, we'll be checking in with Renee from the Owen Sound Animal Shelter and meeting an animal looking for a forever home. Hope you'll join us.
Welcome back to Grey County Life. This might be a little noisy.
It's a puppy party!
Puppy party!
Puppy parties! We'll just be louder than they are, and nobody will notice. We'll just start yelling.
Hello, Renee.
Hi. Yeah, you. She's so loud.
I promise I'm not hurting her.
She's not. She's just really happy to be here. That's her I'm so excited voice, right? Right? So happy or something. I don't know. We have 2 hound puppies today, specifically treeing Walker Coonhounds. That's the long version of that. Most people know them as Walker Hounds. A Walker Hound, as you can see, looks very similar to a Beagle, which we're all familiar with, Snoopy. But they will be, much bigger than Snoopy. A Walker Hound is on average 70 to 80 pounds, so we're looking about lab size, just for everybody who knows what they're getting into. They're super wicked cute, super wicked smart, and very, very, very energetic. Unlike some of our other breeds of dogs that we've had on recently, that's better. She likes to dance. She's a dancing girl. We've had some of our larger breed dogs on recently, and I've always said they're a little more on the quieter side. These dogs are not. I'm just preparing you. I'm not talking you out of it because they're super awesome, because look at you and your little puppy breath and stuff. They require long walks. They require activities. They require things that stimulate their brains. As you know, Sarah, labs, very busy. They're going to make their own fun. A hound is very similar.
They will eat your shoes.
They might, yeah.
Absolutely.
They will chew your throw pillows.
They're going to do those things.
If they have too much energy.
Exactly. They have those desires. The good news is this is a dog that will hike with you, will do long walks, will play games. They're very, very good at the agility and dog sports. They do those things incredibly well because they have the ability to go for long periods of time without getting tired, which is a problem when we want you in an apartment. So we're not going to do that. No, we're not. No. But they're a great family dog. They actually kind of have a bad reputation. People think that they're big barkers. I mean, they can be. They think that they're hard to train. That is not the case. They enjoy pleasing their people, which makes it sometimes really easy. Oh, that's a very sweet face. And you were quiet for 2 seconds. They are only 8 weeks of age, so they have a lot of work to do yet. They're just learning to be alone, which is what this is about. Yeah. She can see her brother, but she's sad about not being here. Yeah. They have been using a crate at the shelter. We've been crate training them because, you know, I love the crate trainings. Mm-hmm. And we are certainly able to send a crate home with them to make that easier for you because, you know, it's a difficult time. In saying that, hello, you are good with dogs and cats and kids. I know.
I promise I'm not hurting her.
She's really not.
Oh my goodness.
Do you want me to put her with her brother? Maybe this helps? Maybe, or trades?
Maybe I'll move over here.
Here, we'll put them together. Look,
All right.
there you go. there you go. Now we don't have to yell so loud. There you go. Okay, okay. This one is the girl. The Chatty Cathy is the girl. Your name could be Chatty Cathy.
Oh my gosh.
And this one is the boy. They've had their vaccines and they've been dewormed, defleed. Again, the house training started. But we need to remind you, of course, that spay and neutering is not something that will be done at this age. So if you're not going to be able to do that, don't call me. I do not want more. It's no offense, though. No offense. I just don't
they're so cute.
We just want more of you.
We don't need more.
No, we don't. We really don't. I know. There. Okay, there. So cute, though.
So cute.
So cute, though.
So cute.
So cute. Oh, you have a beautiful pink nose and blue eyes. Very cool.
She's very cool.
Very cool. There you go. Okay, we'll just keep rubbing her. Just keep rubbing. He's falling asleep. She probably kept him up all night.
That's probably what it was. Yeah, he's tired.
I have a feeling she's going on day 2 of this. Right? Yeah. Day 2. You're keeping him up. Your poor brother. Your poor brother. Look at his sad face. You're keeping him up all night. Right? He's like, get me out of here, please. Get me out. My sister is so loud. She's so loud. There you go. I know. There. Oh, my goodness. They will, of course, be easily blended absolutely everywhere with the time and with the exercise. Right? Look at you. Everybody thinks you're the quiet one. Right? You're the one who they want. You, not so much. Yeah.
Renee, if anyone is watching these 2 puppies, and maybe they're thinking, well, these guys might not be for me. There's lots of puppies coming into the shelter these days, are there not?
Yeah, there absolutely is. Well, this is our dog season. Puppies and dogs of all ages, all shapes and all sizes. We always recommend to get on our list if you have something specific you're looking for. Maybe you've got allergies, maybe you have an aversion to a certain color, whatever, call us. We'll help you find it. And to be honest, it's the only way that we can operate as a no-kill is to keep them moving out as quickly as we can because as they go out, unfortunately, there's more waiting. Mm-hmm. Which is the case with you guys too, right? You got some friends coming in, hopefully soon. Yeah, once you go. Yeah. That's better. That's better. So yes, definitely give us a call. We are also looking for dog walkers. In the winter months, we have a lot less of them. As the dogs keep coming in and the less dog walkers happen, we're awfully busy doing that. So if you have some spare time, you don't mind the cooler temperatures, certainly give us a call. The dogs don't want to be out for hours anyways. Mm-hmm. So it could be just even a half an hour of your day.
Is that something that high school kids can use for their
Yes,
volunteer hours?
please. They sure can. The best thing to do is call us a day or 2 before you want to come and just say, hey, what's your day looking like on, say, Thursday or Friday or whatever, because we certainly have days where we have other volunteers coming in and we don't want the dogs to go out 5 times. But additionally, we might not have anybody, although I suspect not. Just give us a call, say, hey, how's Thursday, whatever, looking at whatever time, and we
we book in and have it all arranged, and it's a lot of fun for them. It's an opportunity for all of the dogs to meet new people, super duper important, and it gives them an opportunity for some training too. If you have the time.
Yeah.
Join us, please.
Yeah.
Please, dog walking time.
Oh my goodness.
I know. I know. You would love it, wouldn't you? You just go run around and stuff. You would.
Oh my goodness.
He's starting to wake up. I think he had a little power nap there. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
It's your fault.
Oh
It's your
my
fault.
gosh.
It's your fault.
Well, they're super cute. As Renee said, this gentleman here and his sister are looking for forever homes. If you are in a position to take on the responsibility of a pet, you can certainly reach out. 519-372-1123 is the number for the shelter.
There you go.
Oh my goodness. And if you're not in a position to take on a pet, but you want to help them, you could always consider making a monetary donation
Yes,
to their
please.
spay and neuter fund,
please.
dropping off dog food, cat food,
Ooh, easy.
paper towels, cat
Yeah,
litter,
we need all that stuff.
stuff like that. So that's always a good way to give back if you're not, you know, able to bring in a pet, because not everyone can. It's a time commitment for sure. So I totally understand people that decide not to have pets. It's probably better if you don't have the time that you decide not to,
please
because
don't.
they end up a lot of the time back at the shelter. So
They do.
Yeah.
They do. And they live a long time. I mean, these little guys will be like 12, 15 easy. That's a long commitment.
Well, hopefully they're in their new forever homes very, very soon. Renee, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for coming in
That's a
today.
cute face. You
Thank
like.
you so much for tuning in to today's episode of Grey County Life. Have a great week.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
Today, I helped a parent feed their family by connecting them to a food program.
Today, I helped someone connect with mental health supports.
Today, I helped a couple struggling to pay their bills.